Chapter 2010. It's That Kid. The old master of the Central Plains Immortal Manor also noticed Gu Fei's group. After all, the old master was a saint who'd sealed his own sage cultivation. A self-sealed saint like him was still terrifyingly powerful despite his cultivation being sealed. Even a grand completion quasi-saint would be mercilessly slaughtered by such an existence. One must know that the old master's sage Dao cultivation had been sealed, but he still possessed the physical body of a sage. Even with the strength of a sage's physical body, a great accomplishment quasi-sage was no longer a match for him. The old master ignored Gu Fei and the Ironblood Daoist. After all, they'd risked their lives to enter the wildlands for the legendary fruit of convergence of the path's grand sovereigns. On top of the 18 ancient chariots, there were 18 figures that emitted powerful auras like mountains. Each figure was like a god of war that came from ancient times. Only Wu Daoyi, the weakest of them all, stood there without a chariot. The ancient chariots had survived the Dark Ages and were covered in scars left behind by swords, spears, swords, and halberds. Those qualified to stand atop the chariots were war gods who'd lived for countless years. They'd once followed the old master to conquer the world. If it wasn't for the fact that this matter was too important to the Central Plains Immortal Manor, the old master wouldn't have mobilized his forces. After all, there weren't many old men left who'd followed him to conquer the world. Some had died in battle, while others were crippled. It was rare for them to survive until now. Has the fruit of convergence of the paths really ripened? An aged voice asked in disbelief. It was an old war god with white hair and beard, clad in bronze armor. The fruit of convergence of the paths was a legendary item. The fragrance in the air. Someone sighed. The fragrance lingering in the air was so soothing that all the pores on one's body opened up, and the immortal Tao divine power within one's body circulated at a faster rate. It feels like ascending to heaven and attaining enlightenment, Wu Daoyi said. Did the legendary fruit of convergence of the paths really have the miraculous effect of allowing one to fuse the Tao and become a saint? This shocked Wu Daoyi to no end. Master, what should we do next? The 18 war gods followed the old prefecture lord's lead. They were the divine weapons of the old prefecture lord. Wherever the old prefecture lord pointed, they would attack without any hesitation. Wait. The old mansion master, who was also clad in armor, pondered for a moment before speaking. Following that, chariots descended from the sky and landed in a nearby valley. The Central Province old mansion master and the others set up camp on the spot, then sent out people to investigate the situation in the surrounding area. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. The old manor master and the others were very careful because they had fought against the terrifying existences in that forbidden area and suffered great losses. As time passed, the figures of other experts began to appear in the vicinity of the forbidden area. The fragrance of the matured immortal herbs could be smelled even from 10,000 miles away. After all, 500 of Buju Ancestral Star's strongest experts had come to the wildland's small world. Among them, there were many heaven-defying existences, and there were even descendants of supremes. Great ruler, the atmosphere in the vicinity of the forbidden area gradually became tense. The Middle Prefecture Immortal Mansion was the master of the wildland's small world. They knew very well that the news of the maturing immortal herbs could not be concealed. It should be noted that among the 500 experts, there were descendants of supremes. They definitely knew about the existence of the Dao Merge fruit. The Dao Merge fruit could help one comprehend the Dao. Anyone who had the ambition to become a saint would be envious of it. Soon, the news of the maturing Dao Merge fruit spread throughout the wildland's small world. Everyone was excited as if they had been injected with stimulants. Is the legendary Dao Merge fruit really in this small world? Some people doubted the authenticity of the news, but the refreshing fragrance lingering in the air could not be faked. The Dao Merge fruit. As long as I can obtain it, there's hope for me to achieve the Dao. On a mountain peak outside the center of the wildland's small world stood a woman wearing a golden mask. Behind her stood a middle-aged man. I'll definitely snatch the Dao Merge fruit for young lady, the middle-aged man said. Caution is the parent of safety. Let's wait and see, the woman said. She was the golden goddess of the gold family, and the middle-aged man was the golden goddess servant. Although this middle-aged man was just an unprepossessing servant, his cultivation base was extremely powerful. He was actually at the great accomplishment quasi-sage realm. In this Central Plains competition, a supreme lineage like the Gold family definitely wouldn't just send 1 or 2 people to participate. This time, there were quite a few people from the Gold family who came to participate as well. However, the competition this time was unprecedentedly intense. Even the Gold family had only sent 3 people to the Wildlands small world. One of them was the cousin of the golden goddess. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. "Young lady is indeed smart," the middle-aged man said. At this moment, 2 people stood on a different mountain peak in another direction. It was a man and a woman. The man was extraordinarily handsome, while the woman was cute. These 2 people were Zi Yunxiao and Zi Yun of the Ziyun family. I didn't expect an immortal divine herb like the Daomerge divine tree to exist in this wildlands small world. Zi Yunxiao came from the Ziyun family, so he naturally knew many secrets of the world. It should be known that the Ziyun supremacy had once obtained an immortal divine herb. Of course, the immortal divine herb that the Ziyun supremacy had obtained wasn't the Daomerge divine tree. Haha, as long as we obtain the Daomerge fruit, we will be able to become saints, Ziyun said with a smile. They didn't care about the ancient path of the human race or whatever, because their goal in taking the ancient path of the human race was to become saints. Since the Daomerge fruit could help people comprehend the Dao and become saints, why would they still need to take the extremely dangerous ancient path of the human race? That's right, we will definitely obtain the Daomerge fruit, Zi Yunxiao said in a deep voice. Zi Yunxiao said in a deep voice. 2 extremely sharp beams of light shot out of his eyes. The fusion path fruit was too important to them. Becoming a sage was their ultimate goal. At this time, there were also people from other forces in the vicinity, and even Buddhist experts appeared. On the ancestral star of Buzhou, there was also an orthodoxy passed down by the ancient Buddhist lord, the Eastern Holy Realm. It was the #1 force in the eastern region of the ancestral star of Buzhou. Some people said that the Eastern Holy Buddha of the Eastern Holy Realm was also a saint who had sealed his saint cultivation. In the Buddhist sects, a Buddhist monk with such a cultivation was called a Holy Buddha. For several days in a row, there was a dark storm outside the central region of the wildlands small world. Some people began to form alliances, some tried to persuade the various forces, and some even came to persuade Jiyu Fei to join their camp. A storm was brewing, and everyone felt extremely oppressed. Chapter 2011. The atmosphere in the desolate minor world was very stifling, as though a storm was brewing. Jiyu Fei knew that the calm on the surface would soon be broken. There was a limit to how long the undying divine medicine could take to ripen. After several days, the fragrance from the forbidden area grew stronger and stronger. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. The stronger the fragrance, the more beneficial it was for cultivation. Many people seemed to feel that their cultivation had improved a little in the past few days. The miraculous effects of the immortal godly medicine could indeed make people go crazy. After a few more days, a strange fluctuation spread out from the forbidden area. The ruler of the forbidden area could no longer sit still. He seemed to be making a move. Are they finally going to make a move? In a valley only a few hundred li away from the forbidden area, inside a large tent, an old man clad in battle armor stood up. His eyes gleamed with sharpness like the edge of a blade. It was early in the morning. There was no sun or constellation in the desolate minor world, but day and night alternated. This part of the world began to light up. After that, 19 war chariots rushed out from the valley, emitting a heart-palpitating killing intent. The 19 war chariots gathered together, forming a heaven-shaking killing intent. This killing intent was so strong that it caused this part of the world to lose its color, and all living things in the world trembled. This heaven-shaking killing intent alarmed everyone. Those who could enter this part of the world were all incomparably astute. No one wanted to be the first to make a move. Many people were watching, and many people could already tell that the place where the undying divine medicine was located was a forbidden area. Even the old manor lord of the central province was watching. From this, One could tell that there was definitely a great danger in the forbidden area. Rumble, the 19 ancient war chariots were like 18 primordial divine mountains, crushing down from the sky, causing the void to tremble and shaking all directions. That powerful pressure almost suffocated everyone. When the auras of these 19 war gods fused together, it was truly too powerful. Perhaps even a saint who had sealed himself wouldn't be able to surpass them. Behind the 19 war chariots, there were more than 10 white-robed cultivators. The 3 sons of the central province are over there. Someone recognized the 3 supreme experts from the central prefecture Immortal Manor. The 3 sons of the central prefecture were all rising stars of the younger generation, but each of them were already so powerful that they could contend against those famous characters of the older generation. Among the 10 great heroes of the central state, only the 3 sons of the central state were worthy of the title of Peerless Master. It wasn't that the other 7 heroes weren't strong, but compared to the 3 sons of the central prefecture, they were far inferior. Their cultivation and battle strength couldn't be compared to the 3 sons of the central prefecture. Is this the strength of the middle province Immortal Mansion? Someone exclaimed in surprise. The foundation of the central prefecture Immortal Abode was truly powerful. Although there had long been rumors that there was a self-sealed saint in the central prefecture Immortal Abode. However, when he actually saw the saint of the middle state Immortal Mansion who had sealed himself, it was completely different from what he had heard. It's starting. On a mountain peak thousands of miles away from the Forbidden Zone, Jiu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a boulder, opened his eyes. At the same time, Iron Blood Daoist, who was sitting beside the boulder, also stood up. Roar! Just as the old sect master of the central prefecture Immortal Mansion led a group of experts in a war chariot and charged into the Forbidden Zone ahead, an earth-shattering roar rang out from the depths of the Forbidden Zone. Humans, you've gone too far. A powerful divine sense rippled out from the depths of the Forbidden Zone. Then, the people outside the Forbidden Zone could faintly see a huge silhouette looming in the depths of the Forbidden Zone. Hand over the divine medicine of immortality and we will naturally retreat. An ancient voice rang out. The old sect master of the central prefecture was extremely domineering. Even when facing the Lord of the Forbidden Zone, he still pressed forward. Everyone outside the Forbidden Zone was shaken. As expected, there was a great ferocious beast in the Forbidden Zone. This ferocious beast didn't seem to fear the self-sealed saint at all. It's you again. Was the lesson last time not deep enough? The divine sense of the Lord of the Forbidden Zone swept out in all directions, enveloping a radius of 10,000 miles. The voice of the Lord of the Forbidden Zone rang out in everyone's hearts. Temph, new grudges and old grudges. Let us settle them today. Rays of divine light began to shine from the central province old prefecture lord's body. Mysterious and unfathomable Tao patterns rushed out from his body before dissipating into the void. The true power of the divine path began to awaken on the body of the old sect master. The might of the saint shook the heavens, causing countless living beings to tremble. This was a fear that originated from the depths of their souls. You actually dared to lift the seal? The Lord of the Forbidden Zone was clearly shocked. One should know that even in this wild little world, no one would take such a huge risk. One should know that once the seal was lifted, it would mean death. Mitch, you think too highly of yourself. I only need to lift a few seals and recover 30 or 40% of my cultivation. That should be enough to destroy you. The old sect master stood on the chariot. His white hair fluttered despite the absence of wind. As the divine Tao patterns rushed out from his body, they dissipated into the void. The true power of the divine path rapidly recovered on his body. At this time, the people behind the old sect master quickly retreated. The 18 old gods of war dispersed on their chariots. Ancient Tao patterns appeared on every chariot. Those Tao patterns rushed out from the chariots and interweaved into a formation diagram in the air. The ancient formation diagram gave off a terrifying ripple. In an instant, this formation diagram connected the power of the 18 old gods of war together. This was not as simple as 1 + 1. The ancient formation diagram had increased the power of the 18 old gods of war to a level that even great completion quasi-sages would have to look up to. When the 18 powers fused together, even a self-sealed sage would be moved. Is this the immortal venerate battle formation of the middle ground immortal manor? On a mountain outside the forbidden zone, Zi Yunxiao and his sister observed. The battle formation displayed by the 18 old gods of war of the middle ground immortal manor was truly extraordinary. This kind of ancient battle formation should be the legendary immortal venerate battle formation. The middle ground immortal manor had once produced an immortal venerate. Of course, this was in ancient times. In the current era, not to mention an immortal venerate, even sages were extinct. In those ancient times, the ancestral star of Buzhou was constantly at war. The immortal venerate of the middle ground immortal manor had created a formation diagram. This formation diagram could only be operated by 18 powerful cultivators. The immortal venerate battle formation was extremely powerful. Although the 18 old gods of war were not sages, the power gathered by the formation diagram was comparable to that of a sage. All the cultivators outside the forbidden zone were incomparably shocked. Apart from some powerhouses that came from ancient forces, not many people knew the origin of this battle formation diagram. Looks like the old guys from the middle ground immortal manor are going all out. Chapter 2012. The immortal venerable formation diagram gathered spirit chi from all directions. The 18 ancient chariots turned into the 18 formation cores of the formation diagram. Murderous intent filled the air from the 18 formation cores. An illusory figure stood up from the formation diagram. It was the body of the immortal venerable formation diagram. When the immortal venerable formation diagram was activated, it could form a body of the immortal venerable formation diagram. This was the true terror of the immortal venerable formation diagram. Are they going to fight? Outside the forbidden zone, all the cultivators were watching the scene inside the forbidden zone nervously. The strength displayed by the middle ground immortal manor was too strong. A force like this was enough to sweep through the entire world. Roar! The old master roared into the sky. His aged body was undergoing a shocking change. He's going to recover to his peak state. How terrifying! The cultivators outside the forbidden zone were extremely shocked. They could only see the old master's snow-white hair rapidly turning black. The old master's wrinkled face was changing as well. The wrinkles were quickly dissolving. His muscles glowed with radiance once again. His aged appearance was changing. The old master's aura grew stronger and stronger. Divine runes of the great Tao rushed out from his body one after another before dispersing into the surrounding void. He was unsealing. His sealed cultivation and power were returning. Soon, the aged patriarch had transformed into a tall, burly middle-aged man with a pair of blazing eyes and a tall, sturdy figure. His black hair fluttered in the wind. "Aren't you afraid of dying?" The voice of the Lord of the Forbidden Zone came from the Forbidden Zone. In the current world, there was not a single saint left in the human world who dared to completely unseal themselves. The human world had become different. Although the power of the great Tao could not harm saints, the power that surpassed the great Tao could still kill saints. The old master did not say anything else. He drove the chariot and rushed into the depths of the forbidden zone. The battle had erupted. The old master had already unsealed a few of his seals. He had already recovered 30 to 40% of his cultivation. The power of the great Tao was extremely powerful. Rumble! The entire forbidden zone was shaking. A terrifying destructive storm swept out from the forbidden zone. Mountains were devoured by the storm. It was a terrifying scene. Pitch-black spatial cracks, like pitch-black bolts of lightning, instantly spread out from the depths of the forbidden zone. This was the void being torn apart. The ruler of the forbidden region was also incomparably powerful, and he was locked in a fierce battle with the old manor lord. Outside the forbidden area, everyone was watching nervously. No one dared to enter because the 18 old war gods were still guarding it. The immortal venerable battle formation was still in operation. A gigantic illusory figure stood between heaven and earth. The phantom condensed from the immortal venerate battle formation gave off a great oppressive feeling, as though there was a real sage standing there. The 18 old war gods didn't make a move. Behind them were 13 white-robed disciples. These 13 young experts didn't show any signs of making a move either. Terrifying energy gushed out. The immortal venerable battle diagram froze the space in front of them, protecting the 18 old war gods, as well as the 13 experts from the central province immortal manor. A battle between sages. Jiu Fei didn't make a move either. People who couldn't control themselves would often put themselves in danger. Now wasn't the time to make a move. Jiu Fei wasn't the only one who had such thoughts. Most of the people were thinking the same. However, there were some people who couldn't resist the allure of the undying god medicine. They wanted to take advantage of the battle between the old manor lord and the lord of the forbidden zone to fish in troubled waters. Ah! A tragic cry rang out. One of the unlucky cultivators was ripped apart by the spatial cracks that came from the depths of the forbidden zone. He was then devoured by the spatial cracks. Even someone as strong as a great perfection quasi-sage couldn't defend against the destructive power of the spatial cracks. That cultivator's body and soul were destroyed instantly. He couldn't be any more dead. Looking at this scene, all the cultivators who had entered the forbidden zone were shocked. This place was way too dangerous. Even a great perfection quasi-sage could fall if they were to encounter any danger here. Roar. A furious roar came from the depths of the forbidden zone. That was the voice of the Lord of the forbidden zone. This roar shook the heavens and the earth, causing a few great perfection quasi-sages to fall from the sky. A single roar from a great perfection quasi-sage was truly terrifying. Even the cultivators outside the forbidden zone were shaken by this roar. Some of the cultivators who were closer even started bleeding from their ears. So scary, many cultivators hurriedly retreated into the distance. A battle of this level was way too horrifying. Even a great perfection quasi-sage would die if they were to head in. There was no way they could interfere at all. Other than some of the heaven-defying existences, all the other cultivators retreated thousands of miles away, not daring to get too close to the forbidden zone. Children, kill them all. Kill every single one of these humans. Don't leave a single one alive. The voice of the Lord of the forbidden zone rang out. Thereafter, a series of powerful auras appeared between the heaven and earth. Instantly, a chilling wind blew within the forbidden zone as malevolent beasts dashed out one after another. Roar. The roars of the beasts reverberated through the heaven and earth. One of them was a ferocious tiger with a pair of wings on its back and a single horn on its forehead. This was a mutated beast of desolation, the Chongqi beast. That Chongqi beast leaped up and pounced towards the immortal reverent battle formation laid out by the 18 war gods in an extremely ferocious manner. The Chongqi beast of desolation was incomparably strong. The might of this single pounce caused the void below to collapse, turning into a destructive force that swept towards the battle formation laid out by the 18 war gods. Boom! A loud sound rang out. That Chongqi beast relied on its powerful innate skills to clash head-on with the immortal reverent battle formation. The illusory Tao body that appeared above the immortal reverent battle formation dissipated and the Chongqi beast was sent flying by the force of the immortal reverent battle formation. And at this moment, countless beasts rushed out from the depths of the forbidden zone, pouncing towards the cultivators outside the forbidden zone. For a moment, the entire region was in chaos. Vile beast, the mountain peak where Jiu Fei was at wasn't safe either. To think that a ferocious snake had its eyes on them. This was a ferocious snake that was hundreds of feet long, emitting a violent aura. Huu. Before the ferocious snake could reach them, it opened its mouth and spat out a black mist. This black mist instantly enveloped the mountain peak where Jiu Fei was at. This was a poisonous mist cultivated by the ferocious snake. As the poisonous mist was spat out, all the plants on the mountain peak began to lose their vitality rapidly, turning yellow. Jiu Fei's body emitted chaotic divine light, blocking all the black mist that was rushing towards him. He punched out and the ferocious snake was smashed into countless pieces, falling down from the sky. At this time, it was impossible for them to take advantage of the situation. Countless ferocious beasts were pouncing towards the human cultivators. Chapter 2013. The ruler of the Forbidden Zone had countless ferocious beasts under his command. These ferocious beasts were all desolate beasts that had been subdued by the ruler of the Forbidden Zone, becoming a powerful force under his command. Ferocious auras filled the air in the Forbidden Zone. Shadows of terrifying beasts could be seen. These were the strongest ferocious beasts under the ruler of the Forbidden Zone. Roar. The ferocious beasts roared, their voices shaking the heavens and earth. Everyone's expressions changed. No one would have thought that there would be so many ferocious beasts in the Forbidden Zone. Some people immediately retreated far away. What a joke! If these ferocious beasts all rushed out, who could stop them? At this time, the Cheongchi ferocious beast had already clashed with the 18 old war gods of the Central Plains. It was barely able to resist the 18 old war gods. What a vile beast! One of the old war gods roared. The immortal sovereign's battle formation was changing. The immortal sovereign's Tao body was faintly discernible, sending the legendary primordial ferocious beast flying again and again. The primordial ferocious beast was indeed worthy of its reputation. The Cheongchi's physical body was extremely tough. Even the power of the immortal sovereign's battle formation was unable to cause any damage to it. However, the immortal sovereign battle formation of the Central Plains was also extraordinary. After the battle formation was activated to a certain extent, the immortal sovereign's Tao body condensed from the battle formation gradually became clearer. The battle formation had successfully condensed the power of an immortal sovereign. The illusory Tao body emitted a powerful aura that looked down on the world. The hazy Tao body held a disc-like artifact in its hand. Although it was just standing there quietly, the aura it emitted seemed even more terrifying than the two true saint auras that erupted from the depths of the Forbidden Zone. Roar. The Cheongchi roared. The immortal sovereign's Tao body made it feel very uneasy. And just at that moment, yet another primordial beast charged over. This was a god elephant. This god elephant's entire body was covered in brown fur, and it was over 100 feet tall. With a single roar, it could cause the mountains to tremble. The 18 old war gods of the Central Province Immortal Manor were shocked. This black elephant was not ordinary, it was an ancient desolate beast. Its brute strength had reached an unimaginable level. In ancient times, the power of dragons and elephants was synonymous with power. The divine elephant directly rushed towards the immortal sovereign's battle formation. Its 4 hooves stomped on the void, its ferocious aura sweeping out in all directions. Defend! 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 The 18 war gods in the immortal venerable battle formation were incomparably nervous. This divine elephant was different from the Cheongchi ferocious beast. If they were hit by this divine elephant, even an immemorial divine mountain would be smashed into pieces. Buzz! The void trembled. Under the control of the 18 old war gods, the Tao patterns that formed the immortal battle formation immediately emitted a dazzling divine light. Spiritual energy from all directions crazily gathered. The celestial sovereign's body immediately became clear, as if it was going to walk out from the void. The aura of the celestial Tao spread out in all directions, as if the entire world was going to collapse from the pressure of this phantom. This supreme pressure caused everyone's expressions to change. Even Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be moved. This type of battle formation was truly powerful, drawing over the power of an immortal venerable. If this battle formation could be activated to the extreme, wouldn't it be equivalent to an ancient immortal venerable taking action? Boom! The huge figure, holding a disc-shaped ritual implement, rushed towards the divine elephant that was charging over. The two collided in an instant, causing a loud sound to erupt. The instant the two of them collided, the entire world violently trembled. Then, with the two of them as the center, ripples visible to the naked eye rapidly spread outwards. Wherever this transparent ripple passed, the void began to collapse and be annihilated. Other than the 13 white-robed disciples of the Middle State Immortal Manor who were enveloped by the immortal venerable battle formation, the area within a radius of several thousand jong became a land of death. Everything was directly destroyed. Some unlucky cultivators didn't even have the time to scream before they were annihilated in this wave of destruction. Their bodies and souls were directly destroyed, and their belongings were also turned into flying ashes. That Cheongchi ferocious beast saw that the situation was not good, and had already retreated 1,000 li away, avoiding this terrifying wave of destruction. Under the impact of the powerful force, the entire immortal venerable battle formation was actually knocked out of the restricted area. The 18 old war gods suffered a great impact, and some of them even had blood seeping out from the corner of their mouths. Ua! One of the 13 white-robed disciples of the middle state immortal manna immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression was extremely haggard, as if he had been injured by a heavy blow. Although the immortal venerable's Tao body had blocked the force of the black divine elephant's charge, the force of the impact was simply too great. Even a greater perfection sage to be was affected by it. Even the 3 sons of the middle state were not spared, and suffered a great impact. The black divine elephant didn't have it easy either. Its huge body that was like a small mountain was sent flying thousands of jong away, crashing into the depths of the restricted area. At this time, none of the cultivators were spared. There were simply too many ferocious beasts charging out of the restricted area, and the hundreds of human cultivators were in danger of being drowned by the beast tide. However, these hundreds of human cultivators were the most powerful cultivators on Buzhou ancestral planet. They were existences that stood at the forefront of the cultivation world of Buzhou ancestral planet. Even a superforce like the middle state immortal manna would find it difficult to deal with such a force, let alone the experts from the sovereign clans among them. Primordial spirit transformation, immeasurable clone. A loud roar rang out from a valley. Then, the entire valley was suddenly filled with densely packed figures as a powerful immortal energy spread out. Roar. There were ferocious beasts roaring in the valley. The powerful beasts had sensed danger and wanted to charge out of the valley, but the valley was soon silenced by the attacks of the countless figures. Whoosh! The countless figures suddenly disappeared. Then, a young man wearing green clothes and carrying an ancient sword on his back walked out of the valley. The pungent smell of blood lingered in the valley. The corpses of hundreds of ferocious beasts were lying on the rocks. They had been killed on the spot. In other places, there were also human experts making their moves. Their shocking killing intent caused the sky to change color. These people were the strongest of the strongest, and they were unstoppable as they reaped the lives of the ferocious beasts. However, there were also many cultivators who couldn't defeat the powerful ferocious beasts and died under their sharp claws. Who? A huge bird that looked like a peacock stood on a mountain peak. It opened its mouth and inhaled. Immediately, a few figures flew over from the distance and were swallowed by the bird. Legend has it that before the Buddhist Lord achieved the Tao, he was cultivating at the peak of a snowy mountain and was swallowed by a divine bird. Could this be the divine bird that can swallow people from 1,000 miles away? Chapter 2014. Even Jiyu Fei couldn't help feeling apprehensive when a ferocious bird that could swallow people from 1,000 miles away flew towards him. It had to be known that this ferocious bird had just swallowed several grand perfection quasi-saints into its stomach. This ferocious bird was definitely one of the most powerful primordial beasts in the Forbidden Zone. In ancient times, there was a peacock divine beast that swallowed the 1,000-year-old Buddhist lord who was cultivating on a snowy mountain. Although this bird wasn't the peacock divine beast, it definitely had the bloodline of the peacock race running through its veins. Jiyu Fei realized that the appearance of this ferocious bird was somewhat similar to the legendary peacock divine beast that had swallowed a Buddhist lord. Whoosh! The ferocious bird opened its mouth again and sucked in. Although they were hundreds of miles away, a powerful suction force instantly enveloped Jiyu Fei and the Ironblood Daoist. Then, the two of them flew forward. What? Jiyu Fei was both shocked and furious. This ferocious bird was too despicable. It thought that he was as easy to bully as a great perfection quasi-sage and swallowed him in one gulp. Boss, the Ironblood Daoist was enveloped by the suction force and couldn't help but turn pale with fright. He tried his best to break free from the suction force, but it was all in vain. This suction force was too powerful. Even an existence like the Ironblood Daoist couldn't resist after being enveloped by this suction force. I'll let you swallow. Jiyu Fei punched forward. The powerful fist energy directly broke through the suction force and bombarded the ferocious bird on the mountain. Although the powerful fist energy hadn't surged, the mountain in front of Jiyu Fei's fist was already shaking. The ferocious bird's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. It didn't expect this human to be able to break through its suction force. Swish! The ferocious bird spread its wings and soared into the sky. Boom! At the moment when the ferocious bird soared into the sky, the mountain below it exploded. Jiu Fei had destroyed a mountain with a single punch, causing dust to soar into the sky. Countless sand, stones, and mud splattered everywhere, covering a radius of several hundred miles. Many of the cultivators who were in the midst of fighting the wild beasts were affected by the shockwaves. They cried out in shock and retreated far away. Many unlucky wild beasts were struck by the flying stones and were instantly smashed into a bloody pulp, dying on the spot. The power of Jiu Fei's punch was terrifying. Which Jiu Fei is it? Jiu Fei blew up a huge mountain with a single punch. The commotion he caused was too great, startling everyone. Someone recognized him and cried out in alarm. Although he had never been to the Middle Continent before this, he had made a name for himself in the southern region of Buzhou ancestral planet and defeated Zi Yunxiao, which had shaken the entire cultivation world of Buzhou ancestral planet. Even though many people had never seen Jiu Fei before, they had heard of his name. It's the person who defeated Zi Yunxiao 10 years ago. Some people were extremely shocked. Jiu Fei has finally made his move. Zi Yunxiao and his sister were astounded by the scene from afar. No one knew Jiu Fei's strength better than Zi Yunxiao. 10 years had passed. Zi Yunxiao had been improving, but Jiu Fei had not been idling around either. If the two were to fight again, it would be difficult to tell who would emerge victorious. Zi Yunxiao would definitely find Jiu Fei in order to retrieve the drop of God's blood of supremacy. One should know that the drop of God's blood of supremacy was too important to him. Kill. At that moment, after Jiu Fei had blown up the mountain with a single punch, he executed the Void 8 Desolation steps and instantly closed in on the bird, throwing out another punch. This was the simplest attack, but it displayed a kind of invincible fist intent. Its power was so great that it could break through all techniques. It was extremely powerful. The bird was obviously startled by Jiu Fei's punch. The undefeatable fist intent emitted from Jiu Fei made it very uneasy. Whoosh! The feathers on the bird's tail spread out like a peacock spreading its tail. There were 9 feathers that formed a fan shape, and on each feather, there was a 5-colored heavenly light circulating. The power of the 5 elements. Jiu Fei sensed the vibrations from the bird and couldn't help but be surprised. This bird was not simple. Perhaps it really did have the pure bloodline of the peacock. Clang! The 9 feathers on the bird's tail flew up and turned into 9 swords. Waves of buzzing sounds rang out, and sword energy exploded. The temperature of the entire area dropped rapidly. The 9 swords that contained the power of the 5 elements headed towards Jiu Fei's fist. Boom! Jiu Fei's fist instantly collided with the 9 swords. The 9 swords stabbed into Jiu Fei's fist, but they couldn't pierce into his flesh at all. However, the sword energy from the 9 swords made Jiu Fei feel great pressure. The sword energy penetrated his fist and attacked his chest. Roar! Jiu Fei let out a furious roar as his long hair began to dance wildly. A powerful chaotic energy rose from his dantian and gathered towards his right arm. The sword energy that invaded Jiu Fei's right arm was immediately dispersed by the energy that erupted from his body. Not only that, the 9 swords that stabbed into Jiu Fei's fist began to vibrate at the same time. This human, the bird, was really shocked at this moment. Someone could actually use flesh and blood to resist the 5 elements sword that it had painstakingly cultivated. The skills of the bird were not to be underestimated. Among all the wild beasts, only a few were qualified to be its opponent. But now, it couldn't even take care of a puny human. This made it feel ashamed. The other beasts would definitely laugh at it. Even though the primordial era's savage beasts only appeared in their true forms, given their cultivation, they were capable of changing their forms at will. They could even take on the form of humans. The 9 swords were vibrating as if they could be blown away by the opponent's fist at any time. The bird was extremely shocked. Ever since it cultivated its skills, no human had been able to shake it. Once the 5 elements sword was used, it would definitely be returned with blood. Break! Ji Fei's eyes widened. With a roar, an even more powerful force rushed out of his dantian and rushed to his right arm. Bang! The power in Ji Fei's right fist exploded. Without any suspense, the 9 5 elements magical swords were directly sent flying by the force of the fist. How is this possible? The bird was shocked. It used its Xian technique and the 9 swords that were blown away by Ji Fei's fist flew back. At this moment, Ji Fei's fist arrived. The power that was emitted from Ji Fei's fist crushed the sky. How is this human so strong? Chapter 2015. Bang! Ji Fei punched out and the bird was immediately blown thousands of meters away. 5 colored feathers fell from the sky. The bird screeched and immediately turned into a 5-colored beam of light, rushing back from afar. Ji Fei had angered the bird. Clang! 9 beams of 5-colored divine light turned into startling rainbows and rushed out from the bird's body, piercing toward Ji Fei. They were like 9 heavenly swords that gathered the power of the 5 elements in the world. Each beam of divine light could pierce through the world. The destructive power spread in all directions. The cultivators and beasts nearby were shocked. They felt the danger and retreated in panic. Some people recognized Ji Fei and didn't dare to approach him. Human, you are very strong, but you have angered me. The bird's voice rang in Ji Fei's mind. This was a spiritual communication without any language barriers. This kind of communication was very common in the ancient times. Even in the present world, most cultivators still use this method of communication. H, what a joke. Do you think I should just stand here and let you eat me? Ji Fei sneered and said disdainfully. This was no longer the ancient times. This bird was not its ancestor, the peacock. Today, the human race was the ruler. The bird was enraged. It didn't say anything else. At this moment, the 9 beams of light had already arrived in front of Ji Fei. The powerful waves of energy tore the space in front of him into pieces. Roar! Ji Fei roared furiously at the sky. He did not dodge, and an unbelievably powerful chaotic true force erupted from his body. A layer of chaotic chi aura appeared on his body. Boom! The 9 streaks of 5 elemental essence energy collided with the layer of primal energy around Ji Fei's body, and the 5-colored divine radiance immediately engulfed him. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Was this guy crazy? He actually dared to use his physical body to resist the ancient bird's 5 elements sacred art. This was simply courting death. This ancient bird could devour ordinary great completion quasi-sages as easily as crushing an ant. Although Ji Fei had defeated Zi Yunxiao before, he might not be able to use his physical body to resist the ancient bird's attack. Boss, seeing this, the Iron-Blood Daoist was terrified. If Ji Fei were to be killed by this ferocious bird, it would be difficult for him to move an inch in this desolate little world. The Iron-Blood Daoist was very clear of his cultivation and strength. If he met an ordinary great completion quasi-sage, he would be fine. However, if he met a great completion quasi-sage like Zi Yunxiao, he would be in deep trouble. Boss, please be alright. The Iron-Blood Daoist was worried about Ji Fei's safety. He knew that as long as he followed Ji Fei, he would gain some benefits. At the very least, others would have some reservations if they wanted to attack him. Rumble! The 9 streams of 5 elements sacred light exploded continuously. The destructive power of the 5 elements engulfed the void within a radius of thousands of feet. The void was destroyed as the 5 elements sacred light destroyed everything. This was the terror of the ancient bird that possessed the bloodline of the ancient desolate divine beast, the peacock. Killing you just like that would be letting you off easy. The ancient bird was filled with hatred. How dare this puny human offend him? He deserved to die. In the ancient times, the human race was incomparably weak. The powerful beasts were high and mighty. In the ancient desolate world, the human race was not the ruler of the world. They could only be enslaved by the powerful beings. However, it was different now. The human race had been through the baptism of countless years and managed to survive tenaciously. On the other hand, the powerful races in the ancient desolate world had disappeared in the long river of time. The primordial ferocious bird still maintained the arrogant attitude it had in ancient times. Although the human race had become much stronger in its eyes, in this small savage world, the primordial beasts were still the rulers. Kill. Just when everyone thought that it was impossible for Jiu Fei to escape, a furious roar rang out from the shattered space. Subsequently, a figure broke through the chaotic space and charged out. Swoosh. A purple sword shadow shot out from between Jiu Fei's eyebrows and instantly pierced through the ancient bird's head. The ancient bird's head exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Everything happened too fast. It was so fast that even when the ancient bird's head exploded into a mist of blood, everyone still had no time to react. A bird with the bloodline of the peacock had died just like that. Its 5-colored headless body fell from the sky. Strands of 5 elements sacred qi flowed out of its body. This was the 5 elements sacred qi that the bird had cultivated for countless years. As long as the bird was alive, the 5 elements sacred qi would never leak out. The 5 elemental essence began to seep out of the bird's corpse, which indirectly meant that the bird had been killed by Jiu Fei in an instant. It should be known that even if the bird's body was destroyed, the 5 elemental essence would not leak as long as its soul was not destroyed. Dead. It was killed just like that. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked. One must know that this was a bird that could easily devour a great perfection quasi-sage. Yet, it was killed just like that. This made the cultivators feel that the scene before them was unreal. Swoosh. Just as the bird's headless body fell from the sky, a figure suddenly rushed over from afar. That person stretched out his hand and took the bird's body away. Who is this person? How dare she steal something from this god of death? Everyone was shocked. They saw that this person was a little girl wearing purple clothes. This little girl was filled with spirituality, especially her big eyes, which were full of spirit. This thing is useful to me. How about giving it to me? The little girl smiled at Jiu Fei. Page, you know your stuff. Jiu Fei chuckled. However, he had no intention of attacking the little girl. This little girl in purple robes was Zi Yunxiao's younger sister, Zi Yuna. Even though 10 years had passed, Zi Yuna was like a fairy that would never grow up. In these 10 years, her appearance and height had not changed at all. Could there really be such a body in this world? Jiu Fei looked at Zi Yuna and thought of something else. At this point in time, the army of beasts still had the upper hand. There were too few cultivators of the human race. Compared to the countless number of beasts, it was hard for the human race to turn the tables. However, after Jiu Fei killed the 5 elements sacred bird, the strength of the entire army of beasts was reduced significantly. Kill. Just then, an angry roar came from afar. High up in the sky, a formation diagram could be vaguely seen. 2 terrifying beasts were attacking the formation together. The 18 old gods of war roared in unison. Their killing intent was terrifying. The immortal reverent Tao body displayed a tremendous amount of power and managed to defend against the attacks of the 2 ancient beasts. Chapter 2016. Roar. The roar of the savage beast shook the heavens and earth. The winged Cheong-Chi's speed was extremely fast. As it flapped its wings, invisible wind blades slashed out. Buzz. Countless wind blades slashed on the Grand Formation, causing the Grand Formation to let out a buzzing sound. Countless formation runes appeared, condensing the power of the immortal Tao, blocking all these invisible attacks. Cheong-Chi was an ancient beast that was most proficient in using the power of the wind between the heavens and earth. This power was invisible and traceless, making it impossible for one to defend against it. Moreover, its speed was a huge threat to the 18 old war gods. As for the other savage beast, it possessed an extremely tyrannical strength. That was the power of the divine elephant of the dragon elephant. That black divine elephant charged forward. Although it didn't display too many mystic arts, its elephant strength was so great that it could almost break through all mystic arts. Boom! The black elephant charged towards the immortal venerable killing formation. Like a black mountain, it charged over crazily and crashed into the immortal venerable killing formation. The entire killing formation shook. The force of the collision caused countless Tao runes to dissipate in the void. The immortal venerable Tao body turned blurry, as if it was about to dissipate in the void. Within the killing formation, one could see ripples of space with the naked eye. These ripples were formed by the power of vibration. These ripples passed through the killing formation and into the killing formation. Blood seeped out from the corner of the mouths of the 18 old war gods standing on the ancient war chariots. The 13 white-robed disciples of the middle state immortal mansion who were protected by the killing formation were in an even worse state. Some of them even fainted. Even the strongest of the 13 white-robed disciples, the 3 sons of the middle state, had blood seeping out from their mouths and noses. At this time, he couldn't do anything. He was in a very awkward situation. From the start, they were protected by the immortal reverent killing formation. From the start, they were protected by the immortal venerable killing formation. At this moment, if they lost the protection of the immortal venerable killing formation, they would be slaughtered by these 2 heaven-defying primordial beasts without any suspense. Even though these 2 savage beasts were not saint beasts, their physical bodies and strength were extremely powerful. They were only half a step away from becoming saint beasts. Such an existence was much more powerful than a great completion sage to be. One should know that the physical body and strength of beasts were naturally stronger than that of humans. Even if humans could become stronger through cultivation, they would still be much weaker than savage beasts of the same level. Moreover, these 2 primeval beasts were primeval beasts that had existed since the primeval age. The bodies of these primordial beasts were many times stronger than ordinary savage beasts. Even a true saint weapon would find it difficult to break through their defenses if it was not fully awakened. Once a savage beast was tamed, it would become the most terrifying killing tool in the world. The black fiend divine elephant was the main attacker. The divine elephant seemed to have gone mad as it slammed into the immortal supremacy killing array again and again. The power of the immortal supremacy killing array could only injure it, but it could not kill it. On the other hand, the Chongqi was very smart. It was only assisting the black fiend divine elephant in attacking. Its power of wind could help the black fiend divine elephant offset a portion of the power of the killing array. In this way, the damage that the immortal supremacy killing array could do to the black fiend divine elephant was minimized. The battle fell into a stalemate. The 2 savage beasts could not break the immortal supremacy killing array, and the 18 old war gods could not activate the immortal supremacy killing array to eliminate the 2 savage beasts. Since we have already killed an ancient savage beast and sowed great enmity with the existence in the forbidden zone, let's fight to our heart's content. Jiyu Fei stood in the void and watched as the human cultivators suffered a one-sided defeat. The battle blood in his body could not help but boil as a shocking battle intent rushed out of his body. Kill. Jiyu Fei charged towards the 2 savage beasts that were attacking the immortal supremacy battle array. Great palm covers the sky. Jiyu Fei struck out with his palm, and a large chaotic palm immediately appeared in the void. It emitted a terrifying energy wave and slammed towards the hill-sized black fiend divine elephant. Rumble. The powerful martial arts force caused the void in front of the chaotic palm to shatter and annihilate. The terrifying force made the black fiend divine elephant feel threatened. The black fiend divine elephant roared and directly charged towards Jiyu Fei. Its black body was surrounded by murderous aura. This kind of murderous aura was almost tangible and could be vaguely seen with the naked eye. How many living beings did it have to kill to condense such murderous aura? Boom! The huge primal chaos hand slammed down on the black malevolent divine elephant, and the powerful force directly smashed the primitive savage beast into the shattered void. Swoosh! At the same time, Jiyu Fei appeared above Chongqi in a flash. Chongqi was taken aback. It never expected Jiyu Fei's speed to be so fast. While it was shocked, it flapped its wings and rushed forward like lightning. Bam! A muffled sound was heard. Chongqi hurriedly turned around and saw that the human had actually stepped on the ground, creating a pitch-black hole in the space where it was originally standing. Chongqi was shocked once again. The force of this human's step was so strong that it could step through the void. Could it be that this human's physical body was so strong that it could go against that stupid elephant? At this moment, Jiyu Fei's figure suddenly disappeared. Chongqi felt a great danger. Without thinking, it executed its movement technique and dodged. Just as Qiong-Qi charged out, Ji Yufei's figure abruptly appeared at its original location. Following that, his figure turned blurry and disappeared into the void. "Ha ha! Human, you dare to compete with me in speed? You really overestimate yourself." Qiong-Qi roared out in laughter. Its voice rang out within Ji Yufei's heart, filled with disdain. After all, Qiong-Qi was a beast king that wielded the power of wind. Wielding the power of wind allowed Qiong-Qi's speed to be much faster than most beasts. Even if this human killed the five elements raptor, his speed would still be far inferior to Qiong-Qi. Looking at how this human was trying to catch up to him, Qiong-Qi thought that this human must have gone crazy. "You won't be able to laugh in a while." Ji Yufei stepped into the void and displayed his extreme speed of 8 steps. Every single step he took was as though he was teleporting, disappearing into the void instantly. By the time he reappeared, he had almost bumped into Qiong-Qi. So fast. Qiong-Qi was taken aback right now. How could this human's speed be this fast? Could this human have mastered the power of wind as well? That was impossible. One had to know that the power of wind was something that the Qiong-Qi race was born with. It was an innate skill, and not something that could be mastered through cultivation. Very soon, Qiong-Qi realized that the human was using a mysterious footwork technique while it was chasing after him. Just as Ji Yufei and Qiong-Qi were chasing each other in the skies, a part of the void in the skies suddenly shattered. A black figure burst out from within the void. Chapter 2017. Phew! Ji Yufei and the Qiong-Qi were moving rapidly in the skies. Even if it were a greater completion quasi-sage, it would be hard for them to catch a glimpse of their figures. Their figures only appeared for a brief moment before disappearing entirely. Roar! The Qiong-Qi howled out. The speed of this human was simply way too frightening. To think that he could catch up to it. How could this be? After all, it was the controller of the power of wind. Bam! A tremendous force surged out from behind, causing the Qiong-Qi, who was in the midst of moving rapidly, to fly forward. The blood within its body rumbled as a stream of blood oozed out from the side of its mouth. How could this be? The Qiong-Qi was about to go crazy. To think that its forte, speed, would be surpassed by a human. This was something that it could not accept. Sheeing. The void vibrated as the Qiong-Qi's body jerked. Countless transparent wind blades surged out from its body. Every single one of these wind blades possessed a transparent Dao pattern. This was the Qiong-Qi's killer move, one that could kill without leaving a trace. The earth-shattering transparent wind blades slashed behind him, enveloping the entire world. Every inch of the void was filled with these transparent sharp blades. Ji Yufei dashed forward. A layer of chaos qi surged out from his body as a series of chaos Dao patterns appeared on his body. These were 9 blurry Dao patterns. Bam! 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 The transparent wind blades slashed onto the layer of chaos qi around Ji Yufei's body. One by one, the wind blades exploded out, causing the layer of chaos qi to vibrate violently. However, even though the countless wind blades slashed onto the chaos qi, they could not break through the layer of defense around Ji Yufei's body. Even though the chaos qi was vibrating violently, it did not dissipate. This time around, the Qiong-Qi was truly startled. To think that this human's defense would be this strong. Could he be the descendant of the legendary martial ancestor? Back in the ancient times, only the descendants of the martial ancestor would possess such a formidable physical body state. The martial body that they cultivated could even go against the carnate godly beasts. Sheeing. Ji Yufei separated his hands, and 5 divine swords appeared around him. These were 5 divine swords that each condensed the power of the 5 elements. This was a supernatural power that was derived from the cultivation of martial arts to a certain level. Shocking sword qi emanated from the 5 elements magical swords. The temperature of the entire world dropped rapidly due to the sword qi fluctuations. Go! Ji Yufei waved his hands forward and the 5 swords hovering around him immediately turned into 5 streaks of resplendent light, piercing towards Qiong-Qi in front of him. What? The Qiong-Qi was taken aback. How could the power of the 5 elements appear on the body of this human? This was hard to believe. This had already surpassed his knowledge. Could this human possess the legendary Chaos Body? Although Cheong-chi was shocked, it didn't dare to underestimate Ji Yu-Fei's extremely sharp attack. It quickly turned into a gust of wind and dodged. Die! Just then, a tremendous amount of energy burst forth from the front of the Cheong-chi. A gigantic hand appeared out of nowhere, grabbing the gust of wind that the Cheong-chi had turned into. Bam! The Cheong-chi was knocked out of the void. The gigantic hand then closed up, and a tragic cry rang out. Thereafter, a bone-chilling sound of bones cracking rang out. Fresh blood oozed out from between the fingers of the gigantic hand and dripped onto the ground. To think that the ancient beast, the Cheong-chi, would have its physical body ripped apart by a single hand. Even its essence spirit couldn't escape before it died. What? Everyone was stunned by this scene. To think that the ancient beast, the Cheong-chi, would be killed by a single hand just like that. And the person who killed this beast was none other than Ji Yu-Fei. To think that there would be two Ji Yu-Feis appearing in the skies at this moment. How could this be? Unbelievable. To think that there would be two Ji Yu-Feis. Furthermore, the aura of these two Ji Yu-Feis seemed to be equally strong. This was definitely not as simple as a clone. One should know that the strength of a clone could not be compared to the original body. There was a certain gap between the strength of a clone and the original body. However, if this wasn't an out-of-body incarnation technique, what kind of divine power was it? 9 Secrets of the Immortal Path, 3 Pure Ones. From afar, the Zi Yunxiao siblings could not help but exchange glances. This Ji Yu-Fei, could it be that he had really obtained the complete 9 Secrets of the Immortal Path? The 9 Secrets of the Immortal Path were the ultimate techniques created by the supreme Daoist ancestor. In the ancient times, these 9 secret techniques had been lost and were no longer complete. Since then, no one has been able to gather all 9 secret techniques. Could it be that Ji Yu-Fei had managed to gather all 9 secret techniques? The Zi Yunxiao siblings found it hard to believe. One should know that it was far too difficult to gather all 9 secret techniques. It was already a great fortune for someone to obtain 1 or 2 of them. I've finally killed the beast. Ji Yu-Fei finally breathed a sigh of relief. He used the One Chi turning 3 Pure Ones divine technique to create a Taoist body. This Taoist body hid in the void with the anti-void secret technique and killed the Cheong-chi beast in one fell swoop when it revealed its weakness. After killing Cheong-chi, his Taoist body turned into a puff of clear chi, returned to his body, and submerged into his body. Rumble, at this moment, the black elephant that had charged out from the void charged at Ji Yu-Fei again. Its 4 hooves stomped on the air, causing the void to tremble violently. Die. Ji Yu-Fei didn't dodge. His martial body shook and his entire body suddenly enlarged, turning into a giant that was dozens of feet tall. His fists were like small mountains as he fiercely smashed towards the mammoth's huge head that was charging towards him. Boom! With a loud bang, Ji Yu-Fei's 2 fists fiercely smashed onto the mammoth's head. His physical strength was completely unleashed, and the chaotic true power condensed on his fists exploded in an instant. The perfect fusion of physical strength and martial true power allowed the power of Ji Yu-Fei's attack to be displayed to the extreme. The 2 shocking brute forces collided and a circle of visible ripples spread out. A large area of the void was shattered, torn apart, and the void was quickly annihilated. Everyone was stunned by the scene. They did not expect that Ji Yu-Fei would face the elephant head-on. It should be known that the primordial wild elephant was an ancient species that excelled in strength. Even an ancient divine mountain would be smashed to pieces by the elephant's charge. However, to everyone's astonishment, Ji Yu-Fei actually used 2 fists to block the elephant's charge. Roar! The giant that Ji Yu-Fei had turned into let out a roar. An even more powerful force erupted from his fists that were pressed against the elephant's head. The elephant roared and was actually forced back more than 10 steps by the force. This was something that had never happened before. A primordial barbarian elephant was actually pushed back by someone. This was simply unbelievable. One must know that this primordial barbarian elephant was a tyrannical existence that could shake an immortal venerable battle formation. Chapter 2018. To think that Ji Yufei would dare to compete with the barbarian elephant in terms of strength. To think that he would be able to swing the barbarian elephant around. With a loud roar, he tossed the barbarian elephant into the depths of the forbidden zone. Who dares to fight with me? Ji Yufei bellowed out. That body of his that was tens of feet tall emanated a horrifying might as he looked down on the entire world with a ferocious battle intent. Wherever his gaze landed, all the powerful beings would lower their heads. Even the most ferocious of beasts would feel their hearts trembling in fear under this invincible might of Ji Yufei. One had to know that even those beast kings weren't a match for this human. What a good junior. To think that you would dare to kill the beast kings under my command. You deserve death. Just at this moment, a loud roar rang out from the depths of the forbidden zone. A pitch-black beast claw then stretched out from the depths of the forbidden zone and grabbed out at Ji Yufei. That gigantic beast claw emanated out a torrential amount of energy that encompassed the entire world. The beast claw was filled with pitch-black scales that shone with a dark glow. Kill. Ji Yufei's long hair fluttered in the wind as he raised both his fists and punched towards the incoming beast claw. The void in front of him was squeezed by the two fists, causing pitch-black spatial cracks to appear one after another. Boom! A loud explosion rang out as Ji Yufei's fists slammed against that beast claw. He could only feel a tremendous force surging through his fists as his entire body was sent flying. Bam! At the same time, that beast claw jerked out as a translucent ripple spread out from it. Ji Yufei's physical body received a tremendous impact. Boo-hoo! In the blink of an eye, Ji Yufei was sent flying hundreds of thousands of feet away. While he was flying, he spat out a few mouthfuls of fresh blood. His lips and chin were filled with fresh blood. The ruler of the Forbidden Zone had struck out. With just a single strike, he was able to send the incredibly strong Ji Yufei flying. This was simply way too scary. Hey! Looking at how Ji Yufei could receive that strike and not even kill him, the ruler of the Forbidden Zone was taken aback. This human wasn't simple at all. What's the big deal about bullying a junior? Your opponent is me. Just at this moment, an elderly voice rang out across the world. Within the Forbidden Zone, a shadow of a beast wanted to rush out. However, it was stopped by an elderly man. Very well, then I'll kill you first, old man, then I'll kill that brat. The words of the ruler of the Forbidden Region were incomparably cold. The ruler of this Forbidden Region was a powerful existence that could fight against a saint who had sealed himself. It was truly unbelievable that such an existence existed in this tiny wildlands. Everyone couldn't help but suck in a cold breath when they saw the ruler of the Forbidden Zone easily injure Ji Yufei. The ruler of the Forbidden Zone was too powerful. This is the true power of the divine path. Ji Yufei was sent flying tens of thousands of feet away by the beast claw. He was extremely shocked. The other party had really sealed his cultivation and battle prowess. If it was any other great perfection quasi-sage, he would have been destroyed in both body and soul. Only Ji Yufei, who had cultivated a quasi-sage martial body to great perfection, could take on that strike of the ruler of the Forbidden Zone head-on. Ji Yufei channeled his Heaven's Emergence secret skill. The injuries on his martial body were healing up rapidly as the power of Heaven's Emergence coursed through his entire body. The torn flesh on his fists were healing up at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths' time, Ji Yufei had already recovered to his peak condition. It was as though he had never been injured in the first place, and was still as mighty as ever. Phew! Ji Yufei took a single step forth and traversed a distance of 100 miles instantly, entering the Forbidden Zone. Roar! Instantly, countless beasts surged out at Ji Yufei like a tidal wave. Their killing intent was earth-shattering, causing the ground beneath their feet to tremble. Since you guys want to die, I'll grant you your wish. Ji Yufei separated his hands, and countless sword blurs rushed out from his body. They turned into streaks of resplendent light and pierced towards the countless beasts that charged at him. With flashes of light, blossoms of blood appeared. Every single beast was struck in the forehead, and the 5 elemental sword chi directly pierced their Niwen palaces, destroying their souls. The beasts collapsed to the ground one after another, all killed in a single strike. Jiyu Fei's 5 elemental sword Qi had pierced through their Niwen palaces and destroyed their souls. In just an instant, the ground before him was covered with the corpses of beasts of various sizes. Roar! The Lord of the Forbidden Zone roared out furiously again. Jiyu Fei had slaughtered so many of his subordinates, so it was utterly enraged. It wanted to charge out and kill Jiyu Fei. However, the former sect master of the Middle Ground Immortal Manor was extremely powerful. He was a saint who had sealed himself. At this moment, 4 of the seals on the former sect master had already been undone. After the 4 seals were undone, the former sect master's condition immediately returned to his middle-aged state. This was the period when the former sect master was at his strongest. Rumble. The former sect master stood on the war chariot and immediately unleashed a killing move. With a wave of his hand, 10 balls of blazing divine light shot out from his hands, smashing towards the beast. Each ball of fire was like a divine sun, illuminating the world and emitting a scorching aura. With the appearance of the 10 balls of fire, the temperature of the entire Forbidden Zone rose rapidly. An ancient saint of fire. When Jiyu Fei saw this, he was shocked to the extreme. The former sect master who had sealed himself was actually a saint of fire who cultivated in the power of the fire attribute. The ruler in the Forbidden Zone was also quite impressive. Faced with the 10 balls of godfire, the beastly figure opened its mouth and sucked in all 10 balls of godfire, sucking them all into its belly. Swish! The beast directly swiped at the former sect master. Its pitch-black claws that were covered in scales tore through the void, forcing the former sect master to retreat. Whoosh! The beast opened its mouth and spat out a pillar of fire at Jiyu Fei, burning towards Jiyu Fei. This was the power of the old master's 10 balls of divine fire, and it was actually being used by this savage beast to attack Jiyu Fei. The terrifyingly hot divine fire engulfed Jiyu Fei in an instant and then burned him. Collect! Jiyu Fei bellowed. The divine fire that was burning towards him seemed to be attracted by a great force and gathered towards the ancient cauldron in his hand. The ancient cauldron was only the size of a fist. It was held in Jiyu Fei's hand. Primordial chaos chi swirled around the mouth of the cauldron, giving off a heaven-devouring power that endlessly swallowed the divine flames into the cauldron. The ruler in the Forbidden Zone was dumbfounded when he saw that Jiyu Fei was actually able to absorb the flames. It had to be known that these were no ordinary flames. Roar! After absorbing the flames, Jiyu Fei roared towards the sky. His aura rapidly rose, and his martial body had already returned to its original state. Primordial chaos Dao runes were faintly visible. Terrifying energy waves burst out from his body. Tenfold ascension, Jiyu Fei displayed the ascension's secret art, causing his combat strength to soar tenfold. He then took a step forward and entered the depths of the Forbidden Zone, attacking the ruler of the Forbidden Zone. So what if it was the ruler of the Forbidden Zone? Chapter 2019. Jiyu Fei's battle intent was like a rainbow right now. To think that he would actually take a single step into the depths of the Forbidden Region and send out a punch at the Lord of the Forbidden Region. That powerful punch shook the entire world, causing even the Lord of the Forbidden Region to be visibly moved. Junior, you're just courting death. The Lord of the Forbidden Region roared out. To think that a puny little greater completion quasi-saint state human would dare to challenge him, this was simply insane. Was he not afraid of death at all? Bam! The Lord of the Forbidden Region stretched out a beast claw and welcomed the incoming punch of Jiyu Fei. That pitch-black beast claw was shrouded in a dark glow. A supremely powerful energy rippled out from that beast claw, shaking the entire world. Everyone's hearts were rattled. This was the true power of a saint state being. The Lord of the Forbidden Region was actually a saint beast. However, this saint beast had already sealed up its cultivation state and cultivation state. However, at this moment, this saint beast was the same as the old master of the Middle Continent Immortal Palace, releasing a few of the seals on its body. If it didn't release a few of its seals, this saint beast would definitely not be a match for the old master of the Middle Continent Immortal Palace. Boom! Jiyu Fei's fist collided fiercely with that black beast claw. There was no suspense at all. Even if Jiyu Fei were to unleash 10 times the strength of the heavens, It would still be hard for him to fight against a saint beast, even if it were a saint beast that had sealed itself up. Ugh! The only thing Jiu Fei could feel was a sweet taste in his mouth before he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. An unstoppable amount of power surged through his right fist, shattering the bones of his right arm as he was sent flying backward. Hey! That saint beast was extremely startled. To think that this human would not die under that strike of his. In fact, he was merely injured, but not fatally. This was something that was extremely surprising to it. That saint beast snorted coldly. Just as it was about to strike out once more, the old master of the Middle Continent Immortal Palace had already arrived. The old master was like an ancient god of fire. His entire body was emitting a boundless amount of god flames that dyed the entire sky red. Kill! The old master roared out. Waving his hand, 9 pillars of fire descended from the sky. Boom! 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 The earth trembled as 9 pillars of fire pierced into the ground, trapping the saint beast within. Blazing fire Dao patterns rushed out from the 9 pillars of fire and interweaved into a blazing fire array. Roar! Faint dragon roars came from the 9 fire pillars. Fire dragons could be faintly seen on the pillars. A savage aura spread out from the fire pillars. 9 dragons, heavenly fire pillar. The holy beast was shocked. It could feel the aura of 9 true dragons coming from the 9 divine flame pillars. It was the aura of the primordial fire dragon. This 9 dragons heavenly fire pillar was a famous killing formation in ancient times. It was an immortal venerable divine weapon refined by 9 dragons immortal venerable. 9 dragons immortal venerable was extremely powerful. He killed 9 raging fire true dragons, extracted their dragon souls and dragon power, and sealed them inside the 9 dragons heavenly fire pillar. The power of 9 dragons was vast to begin with. After being refined into the 9 dragons heavenly fire pillar, the might of the formation became even more terrifying. Even if a real sage were to fall into the formation formed by the 9 dragons heavenly fire pillars, he would be burned to ashes without any suspense. At least you know your stuff. This time, you won't be as lucky as last time. The old master sat cross-legged in the air above the formation, controlling it with all his might. 9 dragon silhouettes condensed on the 9 fire pillars. Raging fire true dragons were supreme existences of the saint realm. The 9 dragon souls had their sentience erased, turning into puppets that only listened to the master of the 9 dragons heavenly fire pillar. The dragon souls and dragon power had fused with the fire pillars. Could it be that you are 9 dragons immortal venerable? The holy beast was shocked. Terrifying divine fire burst out from the 9 fire pillars, burning the void of the heaven and earth. The holy beast could feel the danger. The lord of the forbidden region had lived for countless years. He was an extremely powerful holy beast in ancient times. He knew how terrifying an immortal venerable was because he himself had almost broken through to that realm. If this old man was really 9 dragon immortal venerable, he would be in danger today. In ancient times, this 9 dragon immortal venerable was also a ruthless character. Otherwise, he would not have killed his way into the lair of the raging fire true dragons and killed them alone. No one doubted the strength of the raging fire true dragons. One should know that they were true dragons with the bloodline of the ancestral dragon. Wild dragons could not be compared to them. Even the 9 raging fire true dragons were not 9 dragon immortal venerables' match. No matter how arrogant the lord of the forbidden region was, he would not think that he was stronger than the 9 raging fire true dragons. Pmph, the old master snorted coldly. He did not admit it. At this time, dragon roars resounded again. 9 dragon silhouettes rushed out from the 9 fire pillars and circled in the sky. The lord of the forbidden region could no longer maintain his composure. He felt a great threat. While the 2 Saint Realm experts were confronting each other, Jiu Fei, who was sent flying by the lord of the forbidden region into a forest, soared into the sky again. Crack! He used the ascension power. The broken bones of his right arm trembled and grew back. His damaged flesh was also recovering at a visible speed. In just a short while, Jiu Fei's martial physique had completely recovered. This was the profundity of the energy of ascension. No matter how heavily injured one was, or even if one's soul was scattered, So long as one's divine sense was not destroyed, one would be able to execute the Ascension secret technique to reassemble one's soul and reconstruct one's body. The Ascension secret art was one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. It was known as an undying divine art. It was very difficult to kill someone who cultivated the Ascension secret art. Unless one used some special method, it was impossible to kill such a person. Ji Yufei's strength had returned to its peak state. He had already exited the state of ascension. This was something he had learned from his experience in the constant battles he had fought. He used the Ascension secret art to increase his strength. After launching an attack, he could exit the Ascension state again. He did not need to maintain this state. This way, Ji Yufei could use the Ascension secret art for a longer period of time. What a powerful saint beast. It's still so strong even after sealing itself. How terrifying. Ji Yufei clashed head-on with the saint beast. He knew very well that this was not the saint beast's true strength. If it had attacked with its full strength, he would not have been able to recover so easily. But I've also used my full strength. Ji Yufei had his own trump cards, but he would not reveal them so easily, especially in a situation like this. He would never allow his opponent to figure out his true strength. That way, his opponent would have some misgivings about him and would not dare to attack him carelessly. Although the Saint Beast had knocked him out of the Forbidden Region, Ji Yufei still managed to find the location of the Undying Tree with a quick glance. Chapter 2020. The Immortal God Tree was rooted on a scarlet divine rock. The tree was only about 10 meters tall, and there were 9 blood-red fruits on it. Those blood-red fruits were the legendary Tao fusion fruits. The old prefecture master and the sacred beast were locked in battle. Terrifying shockwaves swept across heaven and earth, but the immortal god tree was not affected. A blood-red light shield emerged from the scarlet divine rock. The blood-red light shield enveloped the immortal god tree, blocking out the energy shockwaves from the outside world. With the protection of the blood-red light shield, the immortal god tree did not escape from this place. The immortal godly medicine was an item with a spirit of its own, and it could sense the dangers that came from the outside world. Even though this godly medicine that could grant immortality could not cultivate, its sensitivity towards danger was something that all other living beings could only dream of. As long as it sensed danger, the immortal god tree would escape immediately. Rumble, at this moment, the old prefecture master finally activated the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar. Monstrous flames surged from the formation, shrouding half the sky. Roar. The sacred beast trapped in the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar roared. Its voice was earth-shattering. The sacred beast was in great danger. The might of the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar was not a joke. One must know that even in the ancient times, when experts were everywhere and sages were alive, the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar's reputation was not just for show. It was earned through fighting. In the ancient times, countless experts were trapped by the 9 dragons immortal venerable with the 9 dragons heavenly fire pillar. They were then refined into ashes, their bodies and souls destroyed. 9 dragon immortal venerable was a very powerful existence. The number of experts that died in his hands could be said to be innumerable, especially those of the demon race. Tao patterns condensed from raging flames intertwined between the 9 divine fire pillars. The 9 divine fire pillars were the array eyes of the array, providing the array with a steady stream of energy. 9 fire dragons swam between the 9 heavenly fire pillars. The terrifying divine fire that spread from the fire dragons burned the void silently. It was extremely terrifying. In the center of the 9 dragons heavenly fire pillar, a ball of cyan light was flickering. It was a large bell that enveloped the sacred beast and kept the mighty divine fire outside. Clang! A bell chime resounded through the 9 heavens, and an invisible sound wave spread out from the bell. The holy beast, who had taken the form of a human and was sitting cross-legged inside the bell, was driving the power of the bell to fight against the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar. Saint weapon. In the air above the 9 dragons' heavenly fire array, the old manor lord of the Central Province Immortal Mansion was incomparably shocked. This saint beast was not simple at all. It actually had a saint artifact. The invisible sound waves vibrated inside the 9 dragons' heavenly fire formation. The power of fire inside the formation was weakened, and the 9 dragon shadows became blurry. Those 9 fire dragons weren't even real dragon souls, but rather dragon shadows formed from the essence of 9 raging true dragons. Given the old Manor Lord's current cultivation base, it was difficult for him to truly awaken the dragon souls slumbering in the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar. The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar was an immortal venerable magic treasure. Its quality was much higher than ordinary saint-grade magic treasures, and it was harder to control. All of you, quickly go and take that immortal tree. The old Manor Lord transmitted his voice to the 18 old war gods. At this time, he had already trapped the sacred beast. Although he couldn't kill it, he could make it difficult for it to stop the 18 old war gods. Rumble, 18 ancient chariots crashed down from the sky. The 18 old war gods of the Central Province Immortal Mansion had made their move. They directly rushed into the depths of the Forbidden Zone. As for the 13 white-robed disciples of the Central Province Immortal Mansion, they stayed outside the Forbidden Zone. The 13 white-robed disciples of the Central Province Immortal Mansion had suffered varying degrees of injuries in the battle between the 18 old war gods, the Chungchi savage beast, and the barbaric elephant. Even the 3 sons of the Central Province were no exception. The most powerful savage beast under the Sacred Beast's command had been killed by Jiyu Fei, but there were still many more powerful savage beasts rampaging in all directions. Human cultivators continued to die under the sharp claws of these savage beasts. Kill. The 13 white-robed disciples of the Central Province Immortal Mansion made their move. They charged into the horde of savage beasts, causing blood to splatter everywhere. One after another, the savage beasts fell. The 13 white-robed disciples vented the frustration in their chests. Just now, they were protected by the 18 old war gods in the immortal venerable battle formation and were passively attacked. Now, however, they took the initiative to attack. With the addition of this force, the situation of the human cultivators immediately showed signs of turning around. Attack! A loud shout came from the depths of the Forbidden Zone. It was the voice of the 18 old war gods. Jiyu Fei's heart skipped a beat when he heard the voice. Then, he didn't think too much about it. He directly entered the depths of the Forbidden Zone and arrived at the place where the immortal tree had taken root. This is, when Jiyu Fei arrived near the immortal tree, he saw the 18 old war gods attacking the blood-colored light barrier that enveloped the immortal tree. Under the attacks of the 18 old war gods, the blood-colored light barrier trembled continuously as if it could collapse at any time. Attack! The hoarse voice roared. A tall old war god among the 18 war gods held a divine spear and pointed it forward. The immortal sovereign grand formation formed by the 18 war gods immediately condensed a heaven-shaking power. Boom! This force transformed into a dazzling divine light that slammed heavily onto the blood-colored light barrier around the immortal tree. Under the impact of this divine light, cracks began to appear on the surface of the blood-colored light barrier. Through these tiny cracks, a faint medicinal fragrance seeped out from the blood-colored light barrier. The aura that allowed one to comprehend the Tao caused everyone's spirits to rise. The fruits of fusion of paths had ripened. The 9 fruits of fusion of paths were like 9 blood-colored hearts that seemed to be beating. Beneath the skin of the blood-colored fruits, there seemed to be some kind of life. This is amazing. Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be dumbfounded at the sight. Could there really be life within the fruits of fusion of paths? He was very careful and hid himself at the side, not being discovered by the 18 old war gods. He was waiting for the best opportunity, and he realized that he wasn't the only one who had such thoughts. At least 3 people had also snuck into the depths of the Forbidden Zone. As long as the blood-colored light barrier around the immortal tree was broken by the 18 old war gods, the other experts hiding nearby would make their move immediately. No one could resist the temptation of the fruits of fusion of paths, because the fruits of fusion of paths represented the hope of becoming a sage. As long as one consumed the fruits of fusion of paths, it was equivalent to having 1 foot in the sage level. Since the primordial times, countless cultivators had struggled bitterly for the sake of it. Becoming a sage was the goal of all living beings. For this goal, all cultivators would do anything. The appearance of the fruits of fusion of paths had driven all cultivators crazy. Even the old sect master, who had become a sage, and the sacred beast were fighting with their lives on the line. Damn it, despicable humans. The sacred beast trapped in the 9 dragons of the heavenly fire formation roared. It was attacking the formation with all its might, causing the entire formation to shake violently. The 9 true fire dragons formed from the 9 dragons of the heavenly fire pillars were also roaring. With the support of the true dragon force, the terrifying true dragon flames trapped the huge bell within the formation. No matter how the sacred beast attacked the 9 dragons of the heavenly fire formation with the power of the bell, it couldn't break out of the formation. HMPH, despicable. Why didn't you say that you were despicable in the battle back then? The old sect master of the middle state said coldly. He was still brooding over the battle back then. Back then, the middle state immortal mansion attacked this forbidden zone and fell into the trap of the lord of the forbidden zone, causing a large number of experts to fall in the forbidden zone, causing the middle state immortal mansion to suffer a great loss. When the sacred beast heard this, it didn't say anything else. It just continued to attack the formation with all its might. With the protection of the huge bell, the sacred beast's life wasn't in danger. However, the old sect master's goal was the undying god tree. He only wanted to trap the sacred beast. One must know that a sacred beast protected by a saint-grade magic treasure wasn't that easy to kill. Attack. The old voice was filled with battle intent. Every single word reverberated through the heavens and earth. This voice caused one's blood to boil. Under the repeated attacks of the 18 old war gods, more and more cracks appeared on the blood-colored light barrier that enveloped the undying god tree. Attack. The old war god roared. Countless runes emitted a dazzling divine light, gathering the energy of the heavens and earth. A faint and illusory figure appeared in the sky above the grand formation. This was the Tao body of an immortal venerable that was condensed after the immortal venerable battle formation had reached a certain state. Boom! With a loud bang, the immortal venerable swung the disc-shaped celestial device in his hand and fiercely smashed it against the blood-red light shield. Something seemed to have been broken and the cracks on the blood-red light shield began to spread. With a loud bang, the entire blood-colored light barrier exploded. Swoosh! At the instant the blood-colored light barrier exploded, 3 figures rushed out and arrived beside the undying god tree in an instant. They extended their hands, wanting to pluck the fusion Tao fruit from the tree. Courting death. The 18 old war gods roared in anger. Then, the power of the immortal venerable battle formation erupted, sending the 3 experts flying away. The 18 old war gods controlled the immortal venerate battle formation. Just as they were about to envelop the undying god tree into the immortal venerate battle formation, Gu Fei appeared. Without saying anything, Gu Fei punched towards the immortal venerable battle formation. At the same time, he opened up his inner world, wanting to keep the undying god tree. Boom! A dull sound rang out. The power of Gu Fei's punch caused the immortal venerable battle formation to pause for a moment. Swoosh! The inner world energy swept out and a red fruit flew out from the immortal god tree. It was pulled into the inner world by the inner world energy. Chapter 2021. The undying god tree had actually escaped, causing everyone to be shocked. Rumble, Gu Fei opened up his inner world and enveloped the undying god tree. A heaven-devouring force surged out from his inner world. However, the heaven-devouring force was unable to keep the undying god tree into his inner world. The undying god tree charged into the depths of the forbidden zone. Chase. The 18 old war gods drove their war chariots and chased after the direction where the undying god tree disappeared. This was an undying god herb, something that even a sovereign would covet. No one was willing to miss out on this opportunity to obtain the undying god herb. Swish. 5 to 6 figures rushed over from afar. 3 of them were the experts that were sent flying by the immortal venerables battle formation. They were extremely powerful existences. One of them was someone that Gu Fei was familiar with, Ziyun Xiao of the Ziyun clan. The other person was a woman with a golden mask. She was the golden goddess of the golden clan. Gu Fei did not recognize the third person. It was a man that resembled both a god and a devil. His eyes constantly flickered with a brilliant light, and the baleful aura on his body was very heavy. It seemed like he had killed quite a lot of living beings. The three of them had heaven-defying cultivation bases. Even though they were sent flying by the immortal Venerable's battle formation, they did not suffer much damage and could still fight for the undying God Tree. I'm still a step too slow. Jiyu Fei closed his inner world. At this moment, a scarlet fruit was floating in his inner world. He did not keep the undying God Tree into his inner world. Instead, he kept the fruit of Tao that fell from the undying God Tree into his inner world. With a thought, the floating fruit of Tao was kept into the mountain and river cauldron by Jiyu Fei. In the chaotic situation just now, no one noticed that Jiyu Fei had obtained a fruit of Tao. At this moment, everyone was chasing towards the depths of the forbidden zone. Human, I'll fight you to the death. At this time, the sacred beast trapped in the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar became anxious. It had guarded this tree of immortality for countless years and had waited for this tree to bear the fruit of fusion of paths. Seeing that the tree of immortality was about to escape, it was shocked and enraged. It began to fight desperately. Clang! The divine bell was ringing. Countless patterns of the Tao appeared on the divine bell, interweaving into ancient and profound patterns. Under the full power of the sacred beast, this saint tool actually showed signs of awakening. Terrifying power of the divine path emanated from the divine bell, and the 9 dragons of the heavenly fire formation began to shake. The power of the dragons in the 9 fire pillars began to awaken under the impact of the power. Open! The sacred beast went all out. It gathered the power of the divine bell with all its might, and the aura of the divine path swept through the sky and the earth, shaking the entire 9 dragons' divine fire matrix. Dark spatial cracks extended from the matrix. You're not the only one who will risk your life. Sitting cross-legged in the air above the 9 dragons' heavenly fire array, the old master roared. Now that he had to settle old and new grudges, he was going all out. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat a mouthful of blood essence onto the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars. Buzz! The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars began to vibrate at once. Saint rank Tao patterns emerged rapidly on the pillars, and a terrifying real dragon aura spread out from the pillars. The old sect master used a mouthful of blood essence to awaken the dragon souls within the 9 divine flame pillars. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon roar resounded. 9 fire dragons appeared on the 9 towering fire pillars, swimming around them. The power of the real dragons erupted, and the void was incinerated by the divine fire. Terrifying divine flames spread out from the 9 blazing dragons on the 9 divine fire pillars, enveloping the entire formation and burning towards the sacred beasts in the formation. You really are the 9 dragons' immortal sovereign. The sacred beast was truly stunned by the old sect master's methods. This human saint could awaken the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars. How was that possible? The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar was an immortal sovereign artifact refined by the legendary 9 dragons' immortal sovereign. Only the 9 dragons' immortal sovereign could wield it freely. Rise of the 9 dragons, destroy the universe. Die! The old sect master did not say anything else. He used the most powerful move of the 9 dragons' heavenly fire matrix, summoning the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars' souls. Roar! Dragon roars shook the heavens. The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars broke free from the 9 divine flame pillars, unleashing an overwhelming draconic aura as they charged towards the sacred beast in the matrix. The sacred beast was shocked. One should know that this was an immortal sovereign artifact. The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars' souls had all awakened and were attacking it at the same time. This was equivalent to an attack from an ancient immortal sovereign. Buzz! The sacred beast desperately activated the divine bell. Countless Tao runes rushed out from the divine bell. A terrifying destructive sound wave spread out in all directions. The sacred beast had also activated the power of this sacred weapon. Wherever the sound wave passed, a large area of divine fire was extinguished, the void was annihilated, and even the chaotic chi was shaken out. Boom! The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars instantly collided with the green light screen of the divine bell. Countless green Tao runes dissipated in an instant. Under the impact of the 9 dragons' heavenly fire, The light screen condensed by the power of the divine bell crumbled instantly. The terrifying true dragon fire engulfed the divine bell and the sacred beast in an instant. Roar! The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars roared, as if real true dragons' heavenly fire pillars had descended. The might of the dragon spread for hundreds of thousands of miles, shaking the heavens. All the living beings in the desolate little world trembled. The true dragon was an existence that stood at the peak of the countless living beings in the world. The might of the dragon spread out, and even the most powerful savage beast had to bow its head. This was the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar. The roars of the Lord of the Restricted Zone came from the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillars. From the roars, one could tell that the Lord of the Restricted Zone was in big trouble. The Lord of the Restricted Zone wanted to go all out, but the other party was even more terrifying than the Lord of the Restricted Zone. One should know that the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar was an immortal sovereign artifact refined by an immortal sovereign. In terms of grade, it was several grades higher than the sacred beast's divine bell. Even though they were both sacred weapons, they were also divided into different grades. It was impossible for every sacred weapon to be the same. An immortal sovereign was a quasi-supreme artifact. This 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar was a quasi-supreme artifact that could suppress the sacred beast's divine bell. This was also what the old master of the Central Province Immortal Mansion relied on. This time, the old master of the Central Province Immortal Mansion wanted to flatten this restricted zone in the desolate little world, and then completely control it. It could be said that the undying divine tree was only one of the reasons why the Central Province Immortal Mansion attacked the restricted zone. One should know that the Central Province Immortal Mansion had been preparing for this battle for a long time. Chapter 2022. The true dragon divine flame was refining the saint beast. The prefecture master was really putting his life on the line. He spat out 9 mouthfuls of blood essence in a row. With each mouthful of blood he spat out, his expression grew wearier. After the 9 mouthfuls of blood, the prefecture master's recovered youthfulness faded once more. His black hair turned white and wrinkles appeared on his face. The prefecture master seemed to have aged a few thousand years in an instant. The aura he exuded could no longer be maintained at its peak. "I'll refine you to death even if I have to risk my life." The prefecture master's voice became incomparably old once more. The 9 mouthfuls of blood essence weren't simple. They were his chi essence, his life force. The dragon souls inside the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar were finally fully awakened. Rumble, the 9 dragons' heavenly fire formation unleashed its full power. The entire heaven and earth trembled. Endless true dragon divine fire burst out from the 9 pillars, burning the heaven and earth. The terrifying temperature annihilated the void. Nothing could survive in the grand formation. Everything was burned into nothingness by the divine fire, leaving only a divine bell floating in the midst of the divine fire. The saint beast inside the divine bell was incomparably shocked. It was too late to undo all the seals on its body. The power of the 9 dragons' heavenly fire formation had already erupted. At this time, even if a real sage was trapped in the 9 dragons' heavenly fire formation, he would be burned to death by the monstrous real fire emitted by the 9 dragon souls. The 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar was an immortal venerable's magic treasure. Its full power was equivalent to an ancient immortal venerable attacking. Roar! Inside the divine bell, the sacred beast roared. At this time, it could no longer care about anything else. It discovered that cracks had already appeared on the divine bell protecting its body. If this divine bell were to shatter, then it would also be burned to ashes by the true dragon god flames. All right. Since you're willing to sacrifice yourself to activate the divine fire pillar, I have nothing else to say. Let's perish together. The saint beast in the form of a black-robed middle-aged man roared at the sky. He was unwilling to die like this. The real battle had yet to begin. It was useless to be unwilling. He couldn't wait any longer. Boom! The middle-aged man's body shook violently, and then something seemed to shatter within him. After that, a torrential surge of saint force erupted from within him. Roar! The holy beast let out a furious roar and revealed its true form. It was a Cheline covered in cyan scales. An extremely pure emu chi surged out from the Chilean's body. Wood Chilean. At this moment, the entire wildlands was filled with the aura of the Wood Chilean. The aura of a Saint Realm expert enveloped the entire world. All of the living beings in the wild world were trembling. This was fear that originated from the depths of their souls. A supreme saint-level existence had actually appeared in this world. The aura of a sacred rank expert suppressed everything. Even the laws of heaven and earth in this small world were completely suppressed by the power of a sacred rank expert without any suspense. Rumble. The aura of the Wood Chilean burst out from the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar. The entire wildlands trembled and became very unstable. This made everyone feel threatened. However, no one dared to resist the oppressive aura of a saint. Everyone felt powerless in the face of this power. Boom! With a loud bang, the Wood Chilean's protective divine bell finally exploded. Under the control of the Wood Chilean, the destructive energy shot towards the old palace lord who was above the 9 dragons' heavenly fire formation. The 9 blazing true dragon souls flew up and gave off boundless dragon might as they pressed down together. The 2 divine bloodline powers collided. Roar! The 9 dragon souls roared, and the power of the dragon spread out in all directions, forcefully suppressing the destructive power that had soared into the sky. As expected of an immortal venerable's supreme treasure. The holy beast sighed. At this time, the emu chi around its body blocked the true dragon heavenly fire. However, the true dragon heavenly fire itself was the nemesis of the emu chi. The Wood Chilean couldn't hold on for long. At this time, an unfathomable force descended. The Wood Chilean was shocked. Crack. Like the most exquisite piece of jade cracking, a crack appeared between the Wood Chilean's eyebrows, and a trickle of blood seeped out of it. No. The Wood Chilean was scared out of its wits. However, cracks began to spread from its forehead. No matter how much the Wood Chilean urged the sacred rank expert in its body, it couldn't stop the process of destruction. H. How dare you completely remove the seal and restore your sacred rank expert cultivation base? You're courting death. The old palace lord was frightened to see this. The power that could destroy a sacred rank expert was unstoppable. No matter how strong a sacred rank expert was, once all the seals on their body were removed, they would self-destruct without exception. Perhaps this was the reason why there were no true saints in the human world. Under the old palace lord's control, the 9 dragons' heavenly fire formation immediately switched from offense to defense. The 9 dragon souls sealed the 9 directions, trapping the Wood Chilean within the formation. Crack. Cracks kept appearing on the Wood Chilean's body. Even its primordial spirit was the same. Cracks appeared as if it could collapse at any time. So it's like this. I can't accept this. The Wood Chilean sighed at the sky. Then, the light in its eyes gradually dimmed. The cracks on its body covered its entire body. Its vitality had been severed. Like a lamp that was burning brightly, it was suddenly extinguished. Bang! The Wood Chilean's body exploded. Countless fragments flew in all directions. Then, it turned into dust and dissipated in the air. Nothing existed anymore. A powerful sacred beast died just like that. It couldn't resist at all. This was a supreme sacred beast that had existed since ancient times. It had once dominated the ancient world and was almost invincible. But even such a powerful existence had to die. The old palace lord's heart pounded. This was the result of completely removing the seal. He forced the Wood Chilean to remove all the seals on its body and restore its sacred rank expert cultivation base. The old palace lord knew that the wild little world couldn't completely isolate the aura of a sacred rank expert. He had already predicted the Wood Chilean's fate. Of course, if he hadn't brought the 9 dragons' heavenly fire pillar into the wild little world, he wouldn't have been able to kill this sacred beast. A sacred rank expert who sealed their own cultivation base was no longer a true sacred rank expert. In the human world, sacred rank experts who sealed their own cultivation base didn't dare to fully restore their sacred rank expert cultivation base. Because once their cultivation base was restored to its peak, disaster would befall them. No one knew why the world became like this. Sacred rank experts couldn't come into being. There was a power above the great Tao of the world that threatened all sacred rank experts. Chapter 2023. Kill. In the depths of the Forbidden Grounds, all the strong cultivators gave their all to fight for the immortal God Tree. All sorts of lights shot out from the depths of the Forbidden Grounds, and every single one of them seemed to be able to tear the heavens apart and pierce through space. Boom! A mountain peak was blasted apart, causing dust to soar into the sky. A figure rushed out from the dust, chasing after a divine tree. Ha ha, the immortal God Tree is mine. That person laughed out loud and unleashed a great mystic ability, conjuring a huge hand that grabbed at the escaping immortal God Tree, wanting to take it away. A cold snort could be heard as a figure surrounded by dense killing intent appeared. Then, a ray of light shot out from the man's hand and collided with the huge hand. Buzz! Cold sword chi erupted, and the sword light was indestructible. It directly minced the large hand into pieces with matchless might. That person was greatly alarmed. Just as that person was filled with shock and anger, the sword light that had crushed the giant hand made a turn in the air and actually shot toward that person. Whoosh! The man escaped immediately, not daring to fight with the man who was surrounded by killing intent. After the man with the baleful aura scared off the man, he leisurely chased after the undying God Tree. He was one with the sword, and his speed was so fast that he could actually catch up to the undying God Tree. Wu Qiong, where do you think you're going? Just then, 3 white figures dashed over from afar. One of them struck out at the man with the murderous aura, while the other 2 were trying to stop the immortal godly herb. Wu Daoyi, others might be afraid of the middle ground trio, but I treat you like a pile of *T. Since you dare to stop me, you should be prepared to die. Wu Qiong's body glowed brightly and he looked like a heavenly sword that had been unsheathed. His sword chi shot up to the sky and blocked all the silver needles that were flying towards him. HMPH, the Imperial Killer of the Western Regions. What a great name! Wu Daoyi controlled countless silver needles as they danced around him. The silver needles turned into rays of light as they flew through the air. This magical item was no small matter. If one was struck by it, the consequences would be unthinkable. It was one of Wu Daoyi's trump cards. Wu Daoyi had once battled with Jiyu Fei endlessly, and his cultivation was extremely powerful. He was a true peerless expert among the Central Plains' 10 great heroes. Kill. The Western Region Killer Emperor, Wu Qiong, did not say anything else. He immediately displayed his strongest sword skill. Countless rays of sword light shot out from his body and formed a huge sword of light that slashed towards Wu Daoyi's head. This was a beam of sword light condensed from the boundless energy of the sword. It was 300 m long and dazzling, and the sword chi that emanated from it caused the world to pale in comparison. The sword light slashed down, seeming as if it was going to cleave heaven and earth in 2. The extremely domineering sword light was invincible and difficult to resist. Even Wu Daoyi couldn't help but be moved. Since Wu Daoyi was called the Killer Emperor, it was not just for show. This person cultivated the killing sword technique, which was why the murderous aura around him was so strong. People who cultivated the Tao of killing were extremely terrifying. Such people were extremely murderous, and if they did not like each other, they could just swing their sword and kill someone. Hence, such people were extremely dangerous. Wu Daoyi did not fight the Killer Emperor directly. He used his escape technique and left a shadow behind while his real body had already retreated thousands of feet away. Invisible needles, go! Dots of silver light shot out from Wu Daoyi's body and disappeared into thin air. It was as if the needles had disappeared into thin air. The Killer Emperor, Wu Qiong, saw this and was shocked. Wu Daoyi's skills were not to be underestimated. The 3 sons of the Central Plains were not undeserving of their reputation. I don't care what skills you have. I will destroy it with my sword. The Killer Emperor, Wu Qiong, became one with his sword and transformed into a dazzling ray of light. He did not care where the invisible needles were coming from as he charged towards Wu Daoyi. Ding! 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 Sounds of collision could be heard as the invisible needles collided with the ray of light. However, they were all repelled by the ray of light and were unable to harm Wu Qiong at all. The dark red ray of light pierced through Wu Daoi's body in an instant. Rise. Wu Daoi did not panic because of the Killer Emperor's sharp ray of light. He formed a hand seal and a ray of golden light flew out from his back and wrapped around the ray of light. An aura of the holy Tao emanated from the golden light. Divine weapon. The Killer Emperor, Wu Qiong, was taken aback. It was a golden rope. Wu Daoi wanted to use a rope to destroy his killing sword's ray of light. Buzz. The ray of light vibrated and the ray of light suddenly split into more than 10 rays of light. They all shot towards Wu Daoi from different directions. At such a short distance, the ray of light suddenly split into more than 10 rays of light. This shocked Wu Daoi. However, when he thought about the origin of the golden rope, he relaxed. Whoosh! As the golden light flickered, the golden rope wrapped around the dozen swordlights in an instant. Then, the swordlights that were wrapped around by the golden rope were directly minced into pieces. However, Wu Daoi was not happy because the rays of light were not the real body of the Killer Emperor. The real body of the Killer Emperor had already escaped. The Killer Emperor did not continue to fight with Wu Daoi. At this point, many experts had already attacked and there was an intense wave of Yuan Qi coming from the front. Sly bastard. Wu Daoi cursed as he kept his needles and the golden rope and chased after the Killer Emperor. At this point, the other 2 out of the 3 sons of the Middle State who were chasing after the Tree of Immortality were stopped by other experts. No one wanted to see the Tree of Immortality fall into the hands of others. Gold family. The person who had stopped the 2 experts from the 3 sons of the Middle State was a woman wearing a golden mask. This person was the golden goddess of the Gold family. Without any unnecessary words, the golden goddess started fighting with the 2 experts from the 3 sons of the Middle State. The power of the gold element was strong and the golden goddess was able to stop the 2 experts from the 3 sons of the Middle State on her own. Before the war broke out, some of the experts had already joined forces, and many of them had formed alliances. When the golden goddess stopped the 2 strongest experts from the 3 sons of the Middle State, a few experts from the northern lands surrounded the Tree of Immortality. In the depths of the forbidden area, there was a chaotic aura that surrounded the area. Even those who had cultivated the Eye of Heaven would not be able to see clearly. The Tree of Immortality had escaped into the forbidden area and it was not an easy task to catch it. Chapter 2024. Ji Yufei's attack was extremely powerful. The experts from the north were no match for him at all. He threw them out of the valley, 1 in each hand. The Tree of Immortality is mine. After throwing the experts from the north out, Ji Yufei took a step forward and approached the Pearl of Immortality in an instant. He extended his hand and was about to take the Tree of Immortality away. Vroom. At that moment, Ji Yufei felt the space above his head shake violently. Then, an extremely powerful force came down from the sky. He abruptly raised his head, only to see a large golden net descending from the sky, covering his head. High up in the sky, stood a woman wearing a golden mask. The golden goddess had arrived. Fist of Chaos. Ji Yufei did not hesitate. He used his most powerful battle technique right away. Patterns of the Tao of Chaos appeared on his fist, and a divine aura spread from his fist. This was the power of a demi-saint. It already had some of the characteristics of a saint. Although it was not the true power of the divine path, it was still extremely powerful. The ferocious fist force blasted a big hole in the golden net that was shrouding it. Specks of golden light dissipated in the void. The monstrous fist force directly collided with the figure high up in the sky. Tao soldiers, appear. The golden goddess had wanted to fight with Ji Yufei. This was a rare opportunity. She shouted and spread her hands. 9 golden Tao soldiers appeared around her immediately. That is, Ji Yufei sensed a powerful divine aura from the 9 Tao soldiers around the golden goddess. It was an aura that only real Tao soldiers had. However, the 9 Tao soldiers were not real Tao soldiers. They were 9 shadows. How did she do it? Ji Yufei was bewildered. Could it be that she actually had 9 saint weapons on her? It was obvious that the golden goddess was using the power of the Tao soldiers for her own use. If she did not have a Tao soldier, How could she use the power of the divine path that was unique to Tao soldiers? At that moment, the golden goddess extended her hand and took one of the Tao soldiers. It was a golden saber. Shua. The golden goddess directly slashed with her blade. A dazzling golden blade light immediately soared up and transformed into a peerless heavenly blade. It directly broke through Ji Yufei's chaotic fist force and fell on Ji Yufei's head. Yes. Ji Yufei was startled when he saw how powerful the golden goddess attack was. He raised his hands and clasped them together, directly catching the heavenly saber that was slashing down from the sky. The golden goddess was truly shocked. Her opponent had actually used both hands to block her saber. His palms were like two immemorial divine mountains. After the golden saber light was blocked, it couldn't sink any further. How can a body of flesh and blood be so powerful? The golden goddess could not believe it. She knew very well that this technique of hers was a Tao soldier ability that had been cultivated by drawing the essence of the 9 true golden Tao soldiers into her body. There were 9 golden Tao soldiers in the Gold Clan. In order to cultivate this technique, the golden goddess had faced the 9 Tao soldiers alone for over 1,000 years. She communicated with them day and night, absorbing their essence into her body. After a long time, the golden goddess had finally cultivated this technique. She was borrowing the power of the Tao soldiers for her own use. Although it wasn't a true Tao soldier descending, it was still a manifestation of the Tao soldier's power. The attack of the Golden Saint Blade was definitely comparable to the full-powered attack of a true quasi-saint divine weapon. This was the Golden Goddess trump card. She wouldn't use it easily, but Ji Yufei was no ordinary opponent. He was definitely a god of death. Roar. Ji Yufei's hands clasped together the 10,000 zhong long golden saber light, but it was extremely strenuous for him. He roared and attacked with all his might. A heaven-shaking energy surged out from his dantian, surging towards his hands and condensing in his palms. Buzz. The saber light hummed. The power that erupted from Ji Yufei's hands shook the saber light formed by the power of the Golden Saint Blade. Cracks appeared on the condensed saber light. What? The Golden Goddess was shocked and angry. This Ji Yufei's physical strength was too strong. Could it be that this was the martial body that the ancestor had mentioned? Only our Paragon bloodline can be invincible in the same realm. What is a martial body? The Golden Goddess screamed in her heart. Her supreme bloodline was the reason why she was so proud. Compared to ordinary cultivators, she had already left them far behind when she was still at the starting stage. Ji Yufei had only cultivated a martial body, but it was even stronger than those born with a Paragon bloodline. How could such a thing happen? The advantage of the Paragon bloodline was nothing in front of Ji Yufei. Kill. The Golden Goddess activated the power of the Tao soldier with all her strength. Her long hair fluttered without any wind. The Golden Saint Blade in her hand displayed great divine might. The cracks on the saber light actually showed signs of being repaired. Break for me. Ji Yufei roared as a terrifying power burst out from his body. The sleeves on his arms were instantly torn to shreds, revealing 2 bulging veins on his arms. The muscles on his arms were vibrating violently. Martial true energy erupted from Ji Yufei's hands. Bang! The golden saber light shattered in the end, turning into specks of light that dissipated into the void. The Golden Goddess was sent flying. Blocked by the Golden Goddess, the undying divine medicine that was stuck in the valley took the opportunity to soar into the sky, once again disappearing without a trace. Damn it! Seeing that the undying divine tree was about to fall into his hands, it actually fled again. This caused Ji Yufei to be infuriated. However, this wasn't the time to settle the score with the Golden Goddess. And at this moment, 18 ancient war chariots flew over the valley, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The people from the central prefecture Immortal Manor had finally arrived. Ji Yufei took a step forward and walked out of the valley, chasing in the direction where the Tree of Immortality had disappeared. This Ji Yufei, the Golden Goddess, was shocked to the extreme. Ji Yufei was actually able to break the Tao soldier mystic ability that she had cultivated. This was truly hard for her to accept. One must know that this was one of the strongest mystic abilities she had cultivated. Swish. Silhouettes flickered as the golden goddess also chased after him. The undying divine tree seemed to be playing hide-and-seek with the crowd, constantly appearing and disappearing in the depths of this forbidden zone, causing the experts from all sides to fight continuously. Bang! Ji Fei clashed head-on with a tower-like human expert, sending that person flying. Boom! Zi Yunxiao suddenly appeared and attacked Ji Fei. The power of the 5 elements sealed the void, locking Ji Fei high up in the sky. If it was any other great completion quasi-sage, they would definitely be killed by the power of the 5 elements. However, Ji Fei, who was imprisoned by Zi Yunxiao's 5 elements great technique, had a martial physique at the great completion quasi-sage realm. The strength of his physical body was comparable to that of an ancient dragon and elephant. Ji Fei's body merely trembled slightly, and the power of the 5 elements was instantly dispersed. After that, he punched out, directly forcing Zi Yunxiao back. "So you are Ji Fei." At this moment, a cold voice rang out from the dark void. 3 white silhouettes walked out from the primal chaos. When Ji Fei saw these 3 people, his eyes couldn't help but narrow. These 3 cultivators in white were none other than the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture. With the arrival of the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture, even Ji Fei felt a lot of pressure. Among the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture, Ji Fei had only fought with Wu Daoyi before. As for the other 2, he only met them today. From the aura they emitted, they were definitely stronger than Wu Daoyi. Scram! Ji Fei stared at the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture and only said one word. "You." Hearing this, the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture's expression changed. This Ji Fei was really arrogant. Ever since they started cultivating, no one had ever dared to speak to them like this. "I would like to see if you have the qualifications to be arrogant." One of them took out a mirror and shone it at Ji Fei. The mirror emitted a wave of yin and yang energy. This was the famous yin-yang mirror. The cultivator in white was one of the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture, Yin-Yang Zi. This yin-yang mirror had 2 sides, one yin and one yang. Being shone by the yin side, no matter if it was a mortal or an immortal, they would die. Even their primordial spirit would be destroyed. However, being shone by the yang side, no matter how heavily injured the person was, they would recover in an instant. At this moment, the yin-yang mirror in Yin-Yang Zi's hand shone at Ji Fei's yin mirror. A destructive force spread out from the yin mirror. This force could extinguish all life. Ji Fei didn't say anything else. Since these people wanted to die, he would fulfill their wish. Boom! Ji Fei directly rushed up and forcefully broke the extinction mirror light on the yin-yang mirror. Then, he punched the yin-yang mirror in Yin-Yang Zi's hand. Crack! With a cracking sound, Yin-Yang Zi and the yin-yang mirror were sent flying by Ji Fei's punch. Yin-Yang Zi spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. This, Wu Daoyi and the other person were shocked. This Ji Fei was actually so powerful. Moreover, his strength was unparalleled. He actually sent Yin-Yang Zi, one of the 3 sons of the Central Prefecture, flying with a single punch. Buzz! Ji Fei exerted his strength. His martial body of the major completion quasi-sage realm emitted energy waves, causing the void around him to tremble. Transparent spatial ripples spread out. Wu Daoyi and the other person couldn't contend against Ji Fei and were directly forced back by Ji Fei. "Little guy, you have the shadow of a martial ancestor on you." Just as Ji Fei forced Wu Daoyi and the other person to retreat, an old voice suddenly came from above his head. This caused Ji Fei's expression to change drastically. Someone had arrived above his head without him noticing. This person's cultivation was definitely far above his own. Chapter 2025. The old prefecture master of the Middle Continent Immortal Mansion had arrived. Although he had suffered a great loss in the battle with the Wood Chelin, he was still as powerful as ever. As soon as he arrived, he went up against Ji Fei. In the eyes of the old prefecture master, Lin Fan was an outstanding talent of the younger generation. However, in front of the undying god tree, no matter how outstanding he was, he had to step aside. "I don't want to attack you, but..." The old lord stood on the bronze chariot. Although he could no longer straighten his back and his head was full of white hair, His eyes were still flickering with a bright light. The old prefecture master had paid a great price in the battle just now. His chi and blood had deteriorated, as though he was on the verge of death. However, Ji Yufei knew that although the old prefecture master's physical body seemed to be deteriorating, he was still extremely dangerous. He could sense a great threat from the old prefecture master. "You are a senior, but I still want to fight for it." Ji Yufei lifted his head and looked at the old prefecture master standing on the bronze chariot in the sky. Even a self-proclaimed saint would not be able to force him to back down. The undying god tree was very important to him. It was related to becoming a saint. Even if he did not take the ancient road of the human race, it did not matter as long as he could obtain the undying god tree. Although Ji Yufei had already obtained a fusion path fruit, it was still too little. "Greetings, old prefecture master." At this moment, the 3 sons of the middle continent had arrived. After seeing the old prefecture master, they hurriedly bowed to him. One must know that this old man was the true ruler of the middle continent immortal mansion. The current old prefecture master of the middle continent immortal mansion was merely the successor of this old man. The old prefecture master ignored the 3 sons of the middle continent and continued to speak to Ji Yufei. "Since that's the case, let's leave it to fate." Rumble. After the old prefecture master finished speaking, he immediately drove the chariot in the direction where the undying god tree disappeared. A terrifying pressure emanated from the bronze chariot in all directions. Everyone knew that the old master of the immortal god sect had arrived. They were all extremely shocked and hid far away. To them, the chance to obtain the legendary immortal god tree had already been lost. Aside from a few people, all the human cultivators who entered the wild little world wanted to retreat. After all, the previous master of the Central Province Immortal Mansion was a sage who had sealed himself in the mortal world. One could well imagine the result of going against such an existence. Just a moment ago, even the insufferably arrogant lord of the restricted region was destroyed by this old man. Many people retreated from the restricted area. They did not want to participate in this fight, because it would cause them to lose their lives at any time. Even though the undying god tree was extremely important to every cultivator, no one was willing to take the risk knowing that they would be killed in this fight. It must be said that those who were able to enter the savage small world were all extraordinary people. The majority of the people realized this and left. Only an extremely small number of people still held on to hope and wanted to reap the benefits. Rumble. At this moment, a terrifying shockwave spread out from the center of the restricted area. Following that, the old master's hoarse voice rang out. "Would Cheline, you still want to make things difficult for me after your death?" A powerful force that could shake the entire savage small world erupted from the depths of the restricted area. The entire savage small world trembled. Countless living beings were terrified to the extreme. It was as if the world was going to end. "What's going on?" Ji Yufei, who was facing off against the 3 sons of the middle continent, felt uneasy. The heaven and earth energy of the savage small world had suddenly become unstable. The 3 sons of the middle continent were bewildered as well. Even though the middle continent immortal mansion had yet to truly control this place, other than the restricted area, the other areas of the savage small world were all under their control. The only uncertain factor was the restricted area. Even though the lord of the restricted area was forced by the old master of the 9 dragons heavenly fire formation to release all the seals on his body and died as a result, no one knew what else the lord of the restricted area had left behind. This part of the world is going to be destroyed. The chaotic heaven and earth energy was sensed by all the experts. This was the prerequisite for the destruction of the world. The heaven and earth energy had already lost its balance and became extremely chaotic. In the end, this part of the world would directly collapse and turn back into chaos. Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound came from the depths of the restricted area. After that, everyone felt a violent tremor under their feet. After that, they saw a surge of chaotic chi shooting up into the sky from the depths of the restricted area. The void began to shatter, and pitch-black spatial cracks extended out from the depths of the restricted area. Swish! A beam of divine light shot up into the sky, breaking through the void and disappearing high up in the sky. Some people chose to leave the savage small world and directly crushed the talisman in their hands. This part of the world was really collapsing. Some people didn't want to be affected and directly left the savage small world. Before entering the savage small world, everyone received a talisman from the Middle Continent Immortal Mansion that allowed them to leave the savage small world. At this time, an ancient teleportation array in the Middle Continent Immortal Mansion suddenly emitted a ball of divine light. A figure walked out from the divine light. Someone finally came out from the savage small world. The disciples of the Middle Continent Immortal Mansion who were waiting outside the ancient teleportation array were immediately alarmed. At this time, there was a huge change in the savage small world. The Middle Continent Immortal Mansion's old chief once again displayed his supreme divine might. He did not hesitate to use the 9 dragons' divine fire pillar at the cost of his vitality, wanting to stop this self-destructing part of the world. Boom! The 9 pillars of fire appeared again. The supreme power of the divine path spread from the 9 pillars of fire, shocking the heavens. The originally chaotic power of the world was immediately suppressed. The collapse that occurred in the depths of the restricted area did not really spread. The chaotic chi was forcibly suppressed by the supreme power of the divine path. Ji Fei looked at the towering pillars of fire before him and directly crushed the talisman in his hand. A ball of divine light rushed out from his hand, wrapped around him, and then shot up into the sky. He knew that the fight for the Tree of Immortality was already over. Because the Tree of Immortality was no longer in this part of the world, he could no longer sense its aura. The Tree of Immortality might have escaped into the chaos. Divine light continued to shoot up into the sky, like meteors that defied the heavens. They shot up into the sky and then suddenly disappeared. The cultivators who entered the savage small world were leaving. The aura of the Tree of Immortality could be sensed in every corner of the savage small world. It was the unique fluctuation of the fruit of Wei when it ripened. However, at this time, no one could sense the aura that could allow one to comprehend the Wei. Chapter 2026. The top 500 in the Middle Province Grand Competition represented the 500 strongest demi-saints of Buzhou Ancestral Star. However, after the battle in the Wildlands, more than 300 of them had perished there. The news quickly spread across the entire cultivation world of Buzhou Ancestral Star. The entire cultivation world was in an uproar, for this was not a trivial matter. There were experts from all the major regions who had fallen in the Wildlands. Some of the great sects only had 1 or 2 demi-saints, but they had all perished. This was definitely a fatal blow to the great sects. The entire cultivation world of Buzhou Ancestral Star was in turmoil. A single stone raised 1,000 ripples, and the entire planet was shrouded in the aura of an impending storm. With so many demi-saints dead, the entire cultivation world was about to undergo a major reshuffle. Apart from the super factions, no other faction could avoid it. The tense atmosphere on Buzhou Ancestral Star had all the factions trembling in fear. No one was willing to be annexed, killed, or become someone else's slave. However, once they were defeated, their life and death were no longer within their control. Soon, some of the smaller factions were either annihilated or annexed. There was no suspense in the outcome. This was a contest of power between the major factions. The fate of the smaller factions that were sandwiched between the major factions was tragic. The vast Middle Province was the most populated region in the entire Buzhou Ancestral Star. There was only one super faction in the Middle Province, the Immortal Mansion of the Middle Province. Apart from the Immortal Mansion of the Middle Province, there were countless other factions of various sizes, but none of them were attached to the giant tree that was the Immortal Mansion of the Middle Province. At this moment, the Immortal Mansion of the Middle Province had no time to fend for itself. Thus, a superstorm that swept across the entire Buzhou Ancestral Star erupted with the Immortal Mansion of the Middle Province as the source. War broke out everywhere in the Middle Province. Various sects were waging war against each other. For a time, the land was plunged into misery and suffering. No one knew how many living beings were killed. After leaving the Immortal Mansion of the Middle Province, Ji Fei noticed that someone was following him. He merely used a camouflage technique to catch the person who was following him. The person who was following Ji Fei was the Iron Blood Daoist. During the chaos in the wild small world, Jiu Fei had no time to care about the Iron-Blood Daoist. He didn't expect the Iron-Blood Daoist to survive. Jiu Fei soon realized why the Iron-Blood Daoist was following him. This guy wanted to follow him. It was normal for the weak to follow the strong. The 13 Iron Blood Flags was not a small force. It was not a bad thing to be able to control this force. However, the Central Prefecture was currently embroiled in disputes, and the situation of the 13 Iron Blood Flags at the border between the Central Prefecture and the Southern Prefecture was not so optimistic. One must know that even in the past, there were people from the immortal manor of the Central Province and the Ziyun clan who wanted to annihilate this group of bandits. Now that this opportunity presented itself, these people might not miss it. The southern region was in chaos as well, but the Ziyun clan was extremely powerful. They quickly sent out experts to suppress the chaos that had just emerged. At this moment, the soldiers of the 10 great sects under the Ziyun clan were gathering in the southern region of Buzhou. The Ziyun clan was unwilling to stay in the south, and it just so happened that the Central Prefecture was in chaos. Most importantly, there was accurate news that the old patriarch of the Central Prefecture had been greatly injured in the battle in the wild small world. The immortal manor of the Central Prefecture no longer had the power to suppress the chaos. In the eyes of the higher-ups of the Ziyun clan, this was a rare opportunity. The territory of the Ziyun clan would no longer be limited to the southern region of the ancestral planet Buzhou. At the location of the Fire God Palace, one of the 10 great sects of the south, there was a towering crimson mountain that resembled flames. Countless soldiers wearing flaming armor and wielding flaming spears gathered on it. It was noon. The sun hung high in the sky, and the Fire God Peak was steaming hot. Crimson rays of light and mist lingered around it. If one were to observe carefully, they would see that the sunlight from the sun was constantly being absorbed by the mountain. The essence of the sun was constantly gathering inside the mountain. The sky above the mountain peak was densely packed with fiery red figures. A shocking murderous aura spread across the sky and earth. "Warriors, it's time for us to conquer the world." An old voice rang out. At the front of the battle formation, an old general standing on a crimson chariot announced to the countless soldiers, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" As soon as the old general finished speaking, the countless soldiers raised their flaming spears and roared. Their voices were earth-shattering and reverberated through the entire region. "All right, let's go. Let's regain our ancient glory." The old general brandished the divine spear in his hands, and then he controlled the scarlet war chariot, rushing into the sky, rushing into the distance. At the same time, the countless soldiers also rose into the air, maintaining an orderly battle formation, chasing after the old general, rushing into the distance. The war had begun. The people of the Ziyun clan wanted to reclaim the glory of the ancient sovereigns and unite the entire Buzhou ancestral star. 10 divisions of fighters were gathering, and the Fire God Division was only one of them. At this time, in the Phoenix Nest, in the base of the 13 Iron Blood Banners, the 13 great bandits had gathered together. At this time, the 13 great bandits, who were usually fearless, now had extremely solemn expressions on their faces. The news that the Ziyun clan wanted to invade the Middle Continent had already spread far and wide. The 13 Iron Blood Banners happened to be situated between the Middle Continent and the southern region. This location was not a good thing for the 13 Iron Blood Banners. "RDA, what should we do? The boss isn't here. I've received news that the Firecloud soldiers of the Fire God Palace are coming for us." A man with a full beard and black armor said to a middle-aged daoist wearing a daoist robe and holding a 5-colored feather fan, who was sitting at the head of the table. "What else can we do? Send a message to the boss and ask him to come back as soon as possible." The middle-aged man waved his feather fan. He seemed very calm. "I'll do it right away." The bearded man hurriedly stood up when he heard this, and then he walked out. "RDA, I'm afraid that the boss won't be able to come back in time." One of the 13 great bandits, a handsome young bandit with a pale face, spoke with a worried tone. This young bandit looked very young, but none of the bandits present dared to underestimate this young bandit. This pale-faced gentleman was a ruthless character. He had once swept through 7 cultivation sects in a single day. He had killed every single one of them, not sparing even a chicken or a dog. The name of the handsome man had existed for thousands of years. Although the soldiers of the Fire God Palace are powerful, we're not that easy to bully. The most important thing now is to find the spy as soon as possible. If not for the spy, how could the people of the Fire God Palace know the location of the phoenix nest? A cold glint flashed across the middle-aged Daoist's eyes as a cold murderous aura emanated from his body. Chapter 2027. Rumble, the heavens and the earth shook. The soldiers of the Fire God Palace floated across the sky like flaming clouds. The murderous aura they emitted was earth-shattering. Wherever they passed, the void rippled. The Fire God Palace was the most powerful among the 10 groups. Therefore, they were the first to attack. Some people said that there was a saint in the Fire God Palace who had sealed himself. If this was true, the Fire God Palace alone would be able to invade the central continent. Wherever the Fire God warrior soldiers passed by, countless living beings would tremble. There were 100,000 Fire God warrior soldiers that formed 10 phalanx formations, and their weapons were unstoppable. An ordinary cultivation force would not be able to gather such a troop of soldiers. The 10 great sects of the southern region were far more profound than outsiders could imagine. After all, the 10 groups were the inheritances of the 10 saints who had once followed the purple cloud sovereign. After a few hours, the 100,000 Fire God soldiers entered the mountain range at the border between the central continent and the southern region. Sensing the murderous aura gathered by the countless soldiers, all the wild beasts in the mountains fell silent. Are they finally here? In the phoenix nest, the 13 bandits stood up. At this moment, 10 scarlet-red clouds appeared on the horizon. These 10 clouds were quickly drifting towards the phoenix nest. Third brother, have you found out who the spy is? At this time, the middle-aged Daoist with the 5-colored feather fan could no longer remain calm. The other party had attacked the phoenix nest with all their strength. This was beyond his expectations. RDA, that person is hiding too well. The bearded man said in shame. He did not find the spy, but he was sure that the spy was still in the phoenix nest. When will the Iron Blood Boss return? The middle-aged Daoist continued to ask. The Iron Blood Boss is already on his way. The bearded man said quickly. Very well, then we will wait until the Iron Blood Boss returns. The middle-aged Daoist gave the order and the other bandits immediately dispersed. The 12 bandits directly took over the operation of the phoenix nest and guarded every key place. Buzz. The void shook and the phoenix nest's protective formation was activated. A transparent dome instantly covered the entire phoenix nest. Since the establishment of the Iron Blood 13 flags, it was the first time they had encountered such a crisis. Yes. High up in the sky, the old general leading the 100,000 Fire God battle soldiers sensed the fluctuation coming from the phoenix nest, and a powerful sage-level aura spread out. Stop. When they were several hundred miles away from the phoenix nest, the old general standing on the scarlet flame war chariot raised the divine spear in his hand and loudly issued an order. The 10 fiery clouds immediately stopped high in the sky. Set up camp. The old general's voice was once again transmitted into the ears of every fire cloud warrior, and the 10 fire clouds immediately descended from the sky into the mountain ridge. Soon enough, camps began to appear in the forest. The phoenix nest's great defensive formation had already been activated. That was a saint-rank great formation, and it would definitely be difficult to break through it in a short period of time. The old general was very cautious. He did not want to lose troops right from the start. These bastards, they actually didn't attack immediately. In the phoenix nest, the middle-aged Daoist's expression was extremely solemn. The other party had come forcefully. If he attacked in one go, he could also dampen the other party's spirit. The opponent's cautiousness made the middle-aged Daoist feel a lot of pressure. It was not difficult to imagine that the other party was waiting. When they felt that they could break through the phoenix nest's great defensive formation, they would launch a thunderous attack and completely destroy the phoenix nest. Could it be that they are waiting for the Ziyun clan? Behind the middle-aged Daoist, the pale-faced gentleman said. This person was the second eldest of the 13 bandits. He was very powerful and was the core of the 13 bandits. Pass down the order. Defend with all your strength. We have to hold on until the Iron Blood boss returns, the middle-aged Daoist said. Since the other party did not attack immediately, he had time to find the mole. He wanted to see who dared to betray the Iron Blood 13 flags. At this time, the Iron Blood Daoist was still on his way. Even with his cultivation, it would take him 1 or 2 days to return to the Phoenix Nest from the Middle State Immortal Abode. Swoosh! A teleportation platform in a city lit up. A ball of divine light appeared, and 2 figures walked out. They were Jiyu Fei and the Iron Blood Daoist. The Iron Blood Daoist had decided to follow Jiyu Fei. He was willing to serve Jiyu Fei as his master. Since his subordinates were in trouble, Jiyu Fei naturally would not sit idly by and allow the Iron Blood 13 flags to be destroyed. Thus, Jiyu Fei and the Iron Blood Daoist rushed to the Phoenix Nest. However, even if they used the teleportation platforms in the cities of the Middle State, it would take them at least a day to rush back to the Phoenix Nest. Moreover, the entire Middle State was not peaceful at this time. Some cities were heavily guarded, and even the teleportation formations in the cities were sealed. They were afraid that the enemy would use the teleportation platforms to kill their way into the city. Jiyu Fei and the Iron Blood Daoist encountered such a situation a few times. As soon as they appeared on the teleportation platform, countless ritual implements came crashing at them. If it were not for the fact that Jiyu Fei and the Iron Blood Daoist were much stronger than the attackers, they would have been injured. The Middle State Immortal Abode could no longer take care of these forces. The Middle State was in chaos. The forces of the Middle State wanted to take advantage of the Middle State Immortal Abode's lack of time to deal with them. They wanted to seize more territory. By the time the people of the Middle State Immortal Abode returned and had the ability to suppress the chaos, the Middle State had already been completely reshuffled. The outcome was already set. Even the Middle State Immortal Abode had nothing to say. Why did the Ziyun clan suddenly attack the Iron Blood 13 flags? Jiyu Fei was puzzled. Didn't they say that no one knew where the Phoenix Nest was? Did someone capture the core disciples of the Iron Blood 13 flags and force them to reveal the location of the Phoenix Nest? There might be a traitor among us. The Iron Blood Daoist said hatefully. Traitor. A cold light flashed through Jiyu Fei's eyes. There was a traitor among the Iron Blood 13 flags. Who was it? Could it be one of the 13 bandits? A traitor was not a small matter. Jiyu Fei and the Iron Blood Daoist continued towards the Celestial Venerate City. At this time, the city had already been sealed. The 10 divisions sent by the Ziyun clan had already set off. There was news that the 100,000 Fire God soldiers of the Fire God Palace had already arrived a few thousand miles away from the city. They had already set up camp. In the Celestial Venerate City's Lord's residence, Lord Zhao Wuji glanced at the officials and generals on his left and right with a gloomy expression. His might without anger made the officials and generals on both sides tremble in fear. Zhao Wuji had already noticed the movements of the 10 divisions of the Ziyun clan, but he did not expect them to move so quickly. Report. Chapter 2028. Just as Zhao Wuji was at his wit's end, his spy reported that the Flaming God combat soldiers were heading towards the base of the 13 Iron Blood Flags, Phoenix Nest. The base of the mysterious 13 Iron Blood Flags, Phoenix Nest, had finally been discovered. Those bastards of Ziyun clan are trying to get rid of this thorn in their side. After the spy retreated, Zhao Wuji fell into deep thought. It wasn't hard to imagine the action of the Flaming God combat soldiers. Ziyun clan wanted to be free of worries, which was why they attacked the 13 Iron Blood Flags. The true controller of the 13 Iron Blood Flags wasn't the 13 Great Bandits, but an expert called Iron Blood Daoist. He was a Great Perfection Quasi-Saint. A Great Perfection Quasi-Saint was an existence that would be a hero no matter where he went. The threat of a Great Perfection Quasi-Saint couldn't be underestimated. Ziyun clan didn't want to be stabbed in the back by the 13 Iron Blood Flags during the war with Middle Province. This worry wasn't without reason, because the 13 Iron Blood Flags was a bandit force that didn't belong to any side. As long as the price was right, this bandit force would become a sharp knife to the other side. Pass down my order. Gather the silver armor city guards of the immortal venerable city. Zhao Wuji pondered for a long time before issuing this order. The silver-armored city guards were the strongest soldiers in the immortal Venerate city. They were a trump card of Zhao Wuji, the city lord, who was stationed in the city. There weren't many of them, only 3,000 of them. However, each of them had the strength of a great expert. This was an army with immortal emperors as its soldiers. Because the immortal Venerable city was located at the border between Middle Province and Southern Province, it was responsible for guarding the throat of Southern Province. Therefore, Immortal Mansion of Middle Province didn't hesitate to send 3,000 silver armor city guards to the immortal Venerable city. Very soon, 3,000 silver-armored city guards gathered in a training field in the celestial Venerable city. After the formation of the guards, Zhao Wuji didn't give any other orders. He was waiting for the people of Fire God Palace to attack the 13 Iron Blood Flags. Zhao Wuji wanted to defeat the 100,000 flaming god soldiers of Fire God Palace. This wasn't a crazy idea. It was possible. One should know that although there were only 3,000 silver-armored city guards, every single one of them was an immortal emperor. A single immortal emperor could sweep through an entire region. Now, there were 3,000 immortal emperors. This was a powerful force that even the Ziyun clan had to be wary of. Among the 100,000 soldiers of Fire God Palace, the number of immortal emperors was less than that of immortal Venerable city. There were at most a few hundred immortal emperors among the 100,000 soldiers. Time was ticking away, and everyone was waiting. In the camp of the Fire God Warriors, in the main tent of the 100,000 Fire God Warriors, the old battle general was sitting in the seat of honor. Below him stood dozens of battle generals. Why isn't Zi Yunlong here yet? This is a war, not a game. If he still doesn't come, I'll have to serve him according to military law. The old general's voice was extremely cold. He was waiting for an important member of the Ziyun clan, but this person had yet to appear. Old general, your temper is still so big. At this moment, a lazy voice sounded from outside the main tent. Hearing this voice, everyone in the main tent heaved a sigh of relief. Zi Yunlong, get your ass in here. The old general didn't have a good expression towards the person outside and yelled directly. Zi Yunlong was the army supervisor for this expedition. His duty was to monitor the movements of the Fire God's combat troops. Every 10 spectral troops had such a duty. Old general, are you going to fight? At this moment, a silhouette flashed at the entrance of the main tent. A young cultivator with a slightly plump body walked in. The cultivator always had a smirk on his face. Bring it here. The old general extended his hand towards Zi Yunlong and said, Hehe, old man, I knew you couldn't help but want to kill someone. Zi Yunxiao smiled and took out 19 purple divine arrows. A Saint Qi immediately appeared in the main tent. Ancient Dao runes could be vaguely seen on the 19 divine swords. The pressuring saintly aura was emanating from these 19 divine arrows. There are arrows but no bow. The old general's face immediately darkened. Old man, how can there be arrows but no bow? Zi Yunlong extended his left hand and a purple divine bow immediately appeared in his hand. Very well, the Sky Splitter bow and the world-piercing arrow. No matter how powerful the formation of the 13 Iron Blood Banners is, we can break it with one arrow. The old general's eyes lit up when he saw Zi Yunlong take out the purple divine bow. This was a great treasure of the Ziyun clan. The Sky Splitter bow and the world-piercing arrow were not simple. They were said to be able to pierce through the 3 realms with one arrow. The old general was waiting for Zi Yunlong to bring the bow before attacking the phoenix nest. Now that the bow and arrows were here, it was time to attack the phoenix nest. At night, 10,000 Fire God warriors rushed into the sky under the lead of a general and attacked the phoenix nest. As the 10,000 Fire God warriors charged towards the phoenix nest, a young cultivator stood high up in the sky and narked an arrow. Rumble, as the young cultivator slowly drew the purple divine bow in his hand, the spiritual chi in the surroundings was immediately attracted and frantically gathered towards the divine bow in the young cultivator's hand. The purple divine arrow madly devoured the spiritual chi that gathered from all directions. 9 divine runes of the Great Path appeared on the body of the arrow. These were runes that only saints could condense. A vast aura of the divine path emanated from the arrow. Oh no! In the sky above the phoenix nest, the middle-aged daoist who sensed the Saint Chi looked up into the sky. When he saw the young cultivator slowly drawing the divine bow in his hand, the middle-aged daoist could not help but narrow his eyes. Behind the middle-aged daoist were countless soldiers. This was the true power of the 13 Great Bandits, a group of soldiers that could dominate the world. Retreat, everyone retreat to the forbidden area, quick! The middle-aged daoist shouted. Then, countless figures flew down from the sky and quickly disappeared into the depths of the phoenix nest. Usually, only the iron-blood daoist could enter the forbidden area of the phoenix nest, but now that it was a matter of life and death, the middle-aged daoist made a prompt decision and led the 12 great bandits and countless soldiers to temporarily hide in the forbidden area. Swoosh! Just as the middle-aged daoist was hiding in the forbidden area with countless soldiers, a divine arrow was shot down from the sky. Boom! Like a purple divine rainbow descending from the sky, the divine arrow directly stabbed into the transparent light screen above the phoenix nest. Then, the entire divine arrow exploded, causing a huge hole with a radius of 1,000 feet to appear in the transparent light screen. The saint-level formation had been broken. Kill. Chapter 2029. Attack. The divine general on the Crimson Flame War chariot roared. 10,000 Vulcan warriors surged forward and charged into the phoenix nest through the gap. Buzz. Just as the Vulcan warriors entered the phoenix nest, the void suddenly trembled. Rays of dazzling divine light shot out from the phoenix nest, piercing through the void towards the Vulcan warriors. Swish! The hundreds of Vulcan warriors at the front were instantly pierced by the divine light and fell from the sky. Blood rained down from the sky. What? The divine general couldn't help but be astonished by this scene. Formation. The divine general roared. The Vulcan warriors moved quickly and a formation diagram appeared in the void. Kill. The divine general took the lead and charged forward. The power of the formation was vast and mighty. Over 10,000 Vulcan warriors formed a killing formation and pushed forward. Rays of divine light that could pierce through immortals were all blocked by the power of the formation, unable to hurt any of the Vulcan warriors. Rumble. The divine fire was burning. The killing formation formed by over 10,000 Vulcan warriors emitted fiery light. This was the solar true fire, capable of burning everything in the world. As long as it was burned by the divine fire that rushed out of the killing formation, even divine metal would be turned into flying ashes. The power of the solar true fire condensed by the formation was still increasing. The god general's heart was bleeding after losing over 100 fire god combat soldiers all at once. Those were immortal-level combat soldiers. The amount of effort needed to cultivate such a combat soldier was unimaginable. Kill all these trash. The divine general roared. However, he found that there was no one in the phoenix nest. It was as if the people here had vanished into thin air. How can this be? The divine general controlled the killing formation and went on a rampage in the phoenix nest. Countless seals were triggered by the formation, but these seals that could kill immortals and even almighties couldn't do anything to the Vulcan warriors. The power displayed by the 100 Vulcan warriors was definitely comparable to a half-saint. These fire god warrior soldiers were only at the immortal realm. After tens of thousands of them formed a formation, they could actually display the power of a semi-saint. Such a formation was indeed extraordinary. RDA, let me go out and kill all these bastards. The bearded man said hatefully. He was furious when he saw the phoenix nest being destroyed by the formation formed by the tens of thousands of fire god battle soldiers. Calm down. The middle-aged daoist waved the feather fan in his hand and closed his eyes to rest. After retreating into the forbidden land, the middle-aged daoist calmed down. This forbidden land was not an ordinary place that could allow those fellows to barge in. The forbidden area of the phoenix nest was the most important place in the phoenix nest. The iron-blood daoist had set up layers of killing arrays around the forbidden area. Even a great perfection quasi-sage wouldn't be able to break through in a short time. Most importantly, the iron-blood daoist's forbidden area had been isolated by his great magic power, so no one could sense the existence of the forbidden area. The forbidden area was hidden in the void. Unless one knew the ins and outs, no one would be able to find the exact location of the forbidden area. What's going on? Where are the 13 bandits? Zi Yunlong flew down from the sky. He held the divine bow in his hand and scanned the surroundings with his divine eyes. However, no matter how he turned the phoenix nest upside down, he couldn't find a single person. They've all escaped. This is impossible. Zi Yunlong knew that they had already sealed the void within a radius of 1,000 miles. No one could use the teleportation formation to escape. However, the 13 bandits were nowhere to be seen. Could it be that there's a secret place in the phoenix nest? Zi Yunlong stood in the air and mumbled to himself. His eyes were constantly flickering. The phoenix nest was the Iron Blood Daoist's nest. There might be a secret that he didn't know about. Greetings, young Master Long. When the God General saw Zi Yunlong, he hurriedly rushed out of the formation and bowed to Zi Yunlong. All of you retreat. Help me ask Supreme Flame to send a few experts over. Zi Yunlong said. It was impossible for these people to find the secret place in the phoenix nest. If the 13 bandits were really in the phoenix nest, then they must be hiding in that secret place. Yes. The Heavenly General hurriedly accepted the order. He then gathered his soldiers and left the phoenix nest. No matter where you hide, I will find you one by one. Zi Yunlong's murderous intent rose. At this moment, his eyes were as bright as the stars. He scanned the surroundings. At this time, the buildings in the phoenix nest had already been burned down by the divine fire. The solar fire was no ordinary divine fire. Anything that was burned by it would be burned down. It was difficult to preserve anything. The phoenix nest that used to be like a fairyland was now in ruins. These bastards. In the forbidden area, everyone who saw this scene through the dazzling light mirror was furious. They wanted to rush out and fight the divine fire soldiers. The Iron Blood leader should be back soon. The middle-aged Daoist suddenly said. When the Iron Blood Daoist returned, it would be the time for them to counterattack. They were still waiting, but it was hard to say if the Iron Blood Daoist would let them wait. The Ziyun clan was no ordinary clan. This was the inheritance of a sovereign. No one knew how deep their heritage was. It was hard to say that no one could find this forbidden area. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, a few figures appeared around Zi Yunlong. Greetings, young Master Long. They were 3 heavenly generals. The 3 heavenly generals bowed to Zi Yunlong. Zi Yunlong was one of the most outstanding disciples in the Ziyun clan apart from the Zi siblings. This time, Zi Yunlong and Divine General Huazun of the Fire God Palace were the vanguard of the Ziyun clan. Divine General Huazun was an old general who had lived for countless years. In the Fire God Palace, there weren't many old heavenly generals like him. The young heavenly generals of the Fire God Palace could not be compared to the old heavenly generals. You guys, go and see where those bastards are hiding. Zi Yunlong's lazy voice was heard. Yes. The 3 heavenly generals bowed and accepted the order. They then split up. The 3 heavenly generals carefully checked every corner of the phoenix nest. One of the heavenly generals had cultivated a divine eye. On his forehead, the divine eye was opening and closing, and there was a Daoist rhyme lingering in it. Another heavenly general had cultivated a pair of clairvoyant ears. His ears were about twice the size of an ordinary person's. At this moment, his ears were vibrating slightly, listening to the slightest sound around him. Chapter 2030. The Fire God Palace sent out their 2 generals, Deva Vision and Deva Hearing, as well as the one with the mirror. The 3 generals used their own abilities, intending to ferret out the 13 bandits hiding in the shadows. Whoosh! Deva Vision's eyes flashed with fire, and runes of the Tao appeared faintly. He scanned his surroundings and very quickly found a space that had been created by a forbidden spell. Boom! Without any hesitation, the purple cloud dragon broke through the void created by the great power. Screams rang out and clouds of blood mist appeared. The destructive power of the space was too great. Zi Yunlong did not even need to attack again. The shattered space was enough to grind the people hiding within into bloody mists, killing them both in body and soul. Very soon, the screams could no longer be heard, because almost all the people inside had died in an instant. You're ruthless. An old man in battle armor charged out of the shattered space. He roared, burning the power of the immortal Tao in his body and even his soul as he pounced at Zi Yunlong. The old man wanted to take Zi Yunlong down with him. Zi Yunlong raised his hand and smashed the old man who was charging at him into a bloody mist. His body and soul were both destroyed. The difference between the two was too great. In front of Zi Yunlong, this old man was not much stronger than an ant. How can I survive in this world if I'm not ruthless? Zi Yunlong muttered to himself. The void that was created by his supernatural power completely collapsed and turned into chaos. Then, it shrank inwards and finally turned into a single point that disappeared into the void. Thousands of people died just like that. They couldn't even become ghosts anymore. Roar! Someone roared in the forbidden area. Many people's eyes reddened at the sight. Those were thousands of core members of the Iron Blood 13 banners, and they were killed just like that. Some of the 13 bandits wanted to go out and fight Zi Yunlong, but they were all stopped by the middle-aged Daoist. Going out now was no different from committing suicide. Zi Yunlong was one of the rising stars of the Ziyun clan. Aside from the Zi siblings, Zi Yunlong was the only one who could take charge of an area by himself. Otherwise, the higher-ups of the Ziyun clan would not have let Zi Yunlong be the overseer of the 100,000 Fire God's warriors. Here. Just as the eyes of the 13 bandits in the forbidden area turned red, another void created by magic power was discovered by the earthly hearing divine general. Through the dazzling light mirror, everyone in the forbidden area was infuriated when they saw this scene. They wanted nothing more than to rush out and tear divine general Earthen to pieces. Rumble! The heavens and earth shook as screams of agony rang out. However, the screams did not last long and quickly died down. It was Zi Yunlong again, directly destroying the space. Another few thousand core soldiers of the 13 steel blood flags were instantly wiped out. Not a single one of them could survive the destructive energy ripples. Zi Yunlong, the 13 great bandits gritted their teeth, wanting nothing more than to eat Zi Yunlong alive. But right now, they had to endure and wait for their Iron Blood boss to return. Divine General's Heaven Vision and Earth Hearing, as well as Divine General Treasure Mirror, possessed remarkable abilities. The three of them could sense minute fluctuations that others could not. Even Zi Yunlong had to admire the three of them. Among the Divine Generals under the command of the Fire God Palace, there were still some who were truly talented and knowledgeable. Next, another 3 hidden spaces created using spiritual energy were discovered by the 3 heavenly generals. Then, Zi Yunlong made his move and destroyed these 3 spaces. In less than 2 hours, over 10,000 steel-blooded warriors hiding in the secret space had been discovered and slaughtered. The steel-blooded warriors hiding in the secret space did not even have the ability to fight back. The 13 great bandits are still nowhere to be seen. Zi Yunlong continued to kill more than 10,000 Iron Blood soldiers, but he discovered that there were very few true experts among them. There were only a few immortal emperors among them. As for the important figures of the 13 steel blood flags, there was not a single one of them, let alone the 13 great bandits. Suddenly, Zi Yunxiao seemed to have sensed something. Then, a message talisman flew over from afar. With a wave of his hand, the talisman fell into his hand. Forbidden area. Very quickly, Zi Yunxiao crushed the message talisman, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. No wonder I couldn't find the hiding place of these bastards. So there's a forbidden area here. Zi Yunxiao summoned the 3 divine generals who were still searching for the void in the phoenix nest and ordered them to search in a certain direction. Who is it? Who's the traitor? At this time, the middle-aged Daoist in the forbidden area was really moved. He only found out how to enter this forbidden area not long ago. The other bandits didn't even know where the forbidden area was. However, at the moment of life and death for the 13 Iron Blood flags, as one of the 13 great bandits, RDA, the middle-aged Daoist couldn't care less. He brought a group of the most important figures of the 13 Iron Blood flags and hid in the forbidden area. Just as the middle-aged Daoist was fuming with anger, a roar came from outside. Then, there were sounds of fighting and shouts. Very quickly, the beautiful lady and the bearded man of the 13 great bandits escorted a person into the depths of the forbidden area, into the stone chamber of the middle-aged Daoist. "RDA, we've found the traitor," the bearded man said loudly. "It's you." When the middle-aged Daoist saw the person who was escorted in, he couldn't help but be shocked. This person was actually the 13th of the 13 Great Bandits. Back then, after one of the 13 Great Bandits was killed by Jiu Fei, the 13 Iron Blood Flags found another bandit to fill the gap. This person was the bandit of the south, the Black Tiger Lord. This Black Tiger Lord was a lone bandit. His cultivation was not below that of the 13 Great Bandits. This person was vicious and merciless. He had done shocking things in the past and was hunted by the Ziyun clan. However, no one would have thought that the Black Tiger Lord, who had a great grudge against the Ziyun clan, was actually a traitor of the 13 Great Bandits. This was unimaginable. When the Black Tiger Lord met the middle-aged Daoist, he was being hunted by the Ziyun clan for thousands of kilometers. He was heavily injured and almost died. "Black Tiger Lord, I've treated you well, but you're biting the hand that feeds you." The middle-aged Daoist was so angry that his body was trembling. Could it be that this guy actually put on a show with the Ziyun clan in order to gain his trust? Since you've already found out, I have nothing more to say. If you want to kill me or torture me, do as you please. Chapter 2031. The traitor hidden among the 13 bandits finally revealed himself. The second of the 13 bandits and the bearded man were captured and brought to the middle-aged Daoist, RDA trying to leak information in the forbidden area. The middle-aged Daoist sneered. This forbidden area was different from other places. This was the place where the Ironblood Daoist obtained the inheritance of the immortal bird. Therefore, this place was more important to him than anything else. After the Ironblood Daoist became a quasi-sage, he constantly used his great magical powers to set up countless arrays around this forbidden ground. As long as there was any abnormal movement in the forbidden ground, the people in the forbidden ground would be able to sense it. Through the dazzling light mirror, the Black Tiger Lord saw that Zi Yunlong and the others were unable to find the phoenix nest hidden in the void. Thus, he tried to send a message talisman to Zi Yunlong. This way, the Black Tiger Lord exposed himself. 13th brother, you've joined the 13 banners for 8 or 9 years. The brothers haven't mistreated you, have they? The handsome man stared at the Black Tiger Lord and said coldly. He was shocked and furious that there was a traitor among his sworn brothers. You guys haven't mistreated me, but I'm from the Ziyun clan, so I can only apologize. The Black Tiger Lord was very straightforward. He knew that RDA and the others would never let him go after he led the soldiers of the Fire God Palace into the phoenix nest. Very well, drag him out. The middle-aged Daoist waved the multicolored feather fan in his hand and said coldly. There was no need to say anything else. His tone was filled with cold killing intent. RDA, after all, they were sworn brothers. The bearded man could not bear to do this. However, under the gaze of the middle-aged Daoist, the bearded man still lowered his head. Thank you, RDA, for giving me a quick death. The Black Tiger Lord knew that he was going to die, but he did not regret it. This was what he owed the Ziyun clan. When he successfully infiltrated the 13 bandits, he already knew that this day would come. The 13 bandits treated their sworn brothers well, but they would never be merciful to a traitor. Let's go. The middle-aged Daoist waved his hand. The jade-faced pretty lady and the bearded man then escorted the Black Tiger Lord out of the middle-aged Daoist stone room. Soon, the Black Tiger Lord was dealt with. In the stone chamber, the middle-aged Daoist sighed and sat down cross-legged again. He closed his eyes. The news of the Black Tiger Lord being a traitor made everyone feel incredulous. How could such a monster that dominated the south be a member of the Ziyun clan? However, the crowd had no choice but to believe it when the evidence was conclusive. As a result, a purge began in the forbidden area. The 13 great bandits were all vicious people, and Black Tiger Lord's subordinates were all killed by the other bandits. At this time, the Forbidden Land was also facing a new crisis. With Black Tiger Lord's information transmission talisman, Zi Yunlong, who was outside, finally sensed some clues. I didn't expect there to be such a place in the phoenix nest. Zi Yunlong's eyes flickered. He already knew where the 13 great bandits were hiding. That place should be a place similar to the heavenly abode. Moreover, someone had used great powers and magical powers to completely isolate the heavenly abode from the outside world. It was in a wondrous state that did not belong to the three realms and had jumped out of the five elements. It would not be easy to find this heavenly abode. Swoosh. Divine General Heaven Vision activated the divine eye between his brows and scanned the area in front of him. Ripples visible to the naked eye immediately appeared in the void that was swept by the divine light from his divine eye. However, there seemed to be an impenetrable barrier in the void in front of him. Although there were ripples, it was difficult to see anything. What a clever move. Divine General Heaven Vision sighed and retracted the divine light from his divine eye. Let me. The Divine General of Treasure Mirror walked forward with the divine mirror in his hand and activated a spell. Divine patterns of the Great Path immediately appeared on the mirror in his hand, and Tao power condensed on the mirror. Swoosh. The Divine General of Treasure Mirror shone the mirror in his hand forward. A dazzling beam of light immediately rushed out from the mirror. Under the mirror's illumination, ripples visible to the naked eye also appeared in the void. The crowd could not help but be shocked when they saw this. Even the Divine General of Treasure Mirror's mirror could not penetrate the void in front of them. The forbidden land of the Phoenix Nest should be here. However, although they had found the location of the forbidden land, they could not find the entrance. Zi Yunlong snorted coldly and walked forward. He struck out with his palm, and the powerful divine power of the immortal path condensed into a giant hand that slammed forward. Boom! The void that had been frozen by the Divine Mirror General's mirror light was instantly shattered by Zi Yunlong's giant hand. However, to everyone's astonishment, although Zi Yunlong's attack had unleashed the chaotic energy, it was still unable to penetrate the forbidden area. Looks like I'll have to ask that old man Supreme Flame to personally take action. Zi Yunlong frowned. He saw that the void that he had pierced through was rapidly repairing itself. Soon, the void in front of him was completely repaired, as if it had never been pierced in the first place. You want to penetrate the forbidden land? In the stone chamber of the forbidden land, the middle-aged Daoist could not help but sneer when he saw the scene outside. If it was so easy to penetrate, the forbidden land would not be the most important place in the Phoenix Nest. As RDA of the 13 Great Bandits, the middle-aged Daoist knew a few things about the forbidden land. This forbidden land was the cultivation ground of the ancient immortal Taoist. The Iron-Blood Taoist had obtained the immortal bird mysterious technique that the immortal Taoist had created here. The immortal bird mysterious technique was a supreme cultivation method. It was said that after cultivating it to the great accomplishment realm, the cultivator would obtain the legendary immortal bird's magical powers. At that moment, Zi Yunlong and the others outside had already sent out their talismans. Soon, a scarlet flame chariot drove over from afar and entered the Phoenix Nest. HMPH, why did young Master Long summon me? Is there anything in this world that young Master Long can't do? On top of the scarlet flame war chariot stood an old general in battle armor. This old general's body was surrounded by divine flames, making him look like an ancient fire god. He gave off an incomparably powerful pressure. The person who came was the leader of the 100,000 fire gods warriors, Divine General Flame. To be able to become Supreme Flame, this old man's cultivation and seniority were second only to one person in the Fire God Palace. Apart from the Fire God Palace Lord, it was now the turn of the 3 Fire God Palace Lords. Divine General Flame did not have a good attitude towards Zi Yunlong. Old man Supreme Flame, you really talk a lot of nonsense. Chapter 2032. Rumble. The entire Phoenix Nest had been destroyed. Huge flags were stuck in the void, and every flag had a towering divine flame rushing out. There were a total of 81 flags that sealed a part of the void. This was a huge battle. Divine General Huazun had set up a raging inferno killing array with his divine power. The part of the void that was sealed by the raging inferno killing array was the most important place in the Phoenix Nest. It was the forbidden area of the Phoenix Nest that had been cut off from the outside world by the Iron-Blood Daoist. The forbidden area of the Phoenix Nest was not within the 3 realms. It had jumped out of the 5 elements and had been completely moved into the primal chaos by the Iron-Blood Daoist. Only those who had the unique technique imparted by the Iron Blood Daoist could enter. The towering divine flame surrounded the void that was hidden in the primal chaos. Divine General Huazun wanted to burn the phoenix nest into ashes with the divine flame. His goal was very clear. He wanted to wipe out the 13 great bandits in one go. As long as the defensive formation outside the phoenix nest was broken, the people inside would not be able to escape death. Old Man Huazun, you are ruthless. Outside the raging inferno killing array, Zi Yunlong gave Divine General Huazun a thumbs up. Ordinary people did not have this kind of courage. It should be known that those were the 13 great bandits. Even Zi Yunlong did not think of wiping out the 13 great bandits in one go because there were more than 10 half-saints. The weakest of the 13 great bandits had the cultivation of a pinnacle almighty. No matter how arrogant Zi Yunlong was, it was impossible for him to kill all 13 great bandits in one go, especially when there was still the Iron Blood Daoist. The Iron Blood Daoist had once subdued the 13 great bandits with his own strength. This person was definitely a ruthless character. Even Zi Yunlong did not dare to say that he could definitely kill the Iron Blood Daoist. Rumble. The 81 flags were fluttering. Even from thousands of miles away, one could still see the flames. The terrifying temperature had burned the void into oblivion. The Phoenix Nest forbidden area had already been burned into the primal chaos. There was only a huge spherical void floating in the primal chaos. The huge spherical void was wrapped in a thick layer of spatial screen. There were countless interweaving Dao patterns on it. What should we do? In the Phoenix Nest forbidden ground, the middle-aged Daoist stopped waving the 5-colored feather fan in his hand. The blazing inferno formation set up by Divine General Huazun was too terrifying. It was definitely a sage-level formation. Golden crows could be faintly seen within the boundless divine fire. The 81 banners drew upon the power of the sun in the sky. Legend has it that the ancient fire god was born from the sun. Only after countless years did the sun give birth to another golden bird. The innate fire god was an existence of the sovereign level. The fire god palace was not the inheritance of the ancient sovereign fire god. The fire god palace was just an inheritance passed down by an ancient fire saint who cultivated the power of fire and became a sage under the ancient purple cloud sovereign. There were many saints under the command of the purple cloud honorable, and Fire Saint was one of the 5 elements saints under the purple cloud honorable. However, even if the fire god palace was not the inheritance of the ancient sovereign fire god, it was still the genuine inheritance of the ancient saint. The blazing golden crow formation was also one of the trump cards of the fire god palace. The blazing golden crow formation was a true sage-level formation. It was a killing formation created by the founder of the fire god palace after countless years of deduction. The primordial fire saint had fought for the violet cloud sovereign with this formation and had once made a name for himself. He was one of the few powerhouses under the violet cloud sovereign. What's going on, Iron Blood Boss? Why isn't he back yet? The second of the 13 bandits couldn't sit still at this time. Although the restrictive spell on the periphery of the Phoenix Nest forbidden area could still resist the raging inferno array outside, this wasn't a long-term solution because the raging inferno array had sealed the Phoenix Nest forbidden area and isolated everything. The operation of the Phoenix Nest Great Array consumed spiritual energy. Once the spirit chi inside the Phoenix Nest was depleted, these arrays would collapse on their own. The 13 bandits knew about this, but at this time, they could not do anything. If they rushed out now, they would definitely be trapped in the blazing inferno formation and be refined to death. Iron Blood Boss might have returned. The middle-aged Daoist's eyes became deep. If that was the case, then Iron Blood Boss must be planning a way to defeat the Fire God soldiers in one fell swoop. I hope so. The other 13 bandits were hoping that Iron Blood Daoist could give the invading Fire God soldiers a heavy blow. It would be best if the Fire God soldiers were defeated. However, it did not seem to be easy to defeat 100,000 Fire God soldiers in one fell swoop. At this time, in the sky outside the Celestial Honor City, the everlasting City Lord of the Celestial Honor City could not help but frown as he looked at the blazing flames in the distance. I didn't expect this. The everlasting City Lord of the Celestial Honor City muttered to himself. He was not unfamiliar with the blazing golden crow formation of the Fire God Palace. He had fought with the 3 Flame Supremes of the Fire God Palace in the past. He did not expect that Divine General Hua would actually use the blazing golden crow formation to attack the Phoenix Nest. It seemed that he had underestimated the strength of the 13 bandits. The strength of the 13 bandits was much stronger than he had imagined. My lord, now that Old Man Supreme Hua is attacking the Phoenix Nest with all his might. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Behind the Everlasting City Lord, a silver-armored immortal general took a step forward and bowed to the Everlasting City Lord. The Everlasting City Lord looked at the blazing flames in the distance and pondered. Old Man Supreme Hua is very cunning. He is an old fox. Let's wait and see. The Everlasting City Lord said. He and Divine General Hua were old rivals, and he had a certain understanding of the other party's temperament. Since Divine General Hua dared to use the blazing golden crow formation to attack the Phoenix Nest, it was likely that he had a powerful backup in the camp. If the Everlasting City Lord were to attack rashly, he might fall into a trap. He had to be cautious when fighting against an old antique who had experienced many battles. At this time, Jiu Fei and the Iron Blood Daoist had indeed arrived near the Celestial Honor City, but they were not in a hurry to take action. They realized that the Celestial Honor City Lord seemed to want to attack the camp of the Fire God warriors stationed in the mountains. What's going on? When is the Everlasting City Lord going to take action? On a mountain peak outside the Celestial Honor City, the Iron Blood Daoist looked at the blazing flames in the mountains and could not help but feel anxious. That was his foundation. The Iron Blood Daoist had obtained the inheritance of the ancient Undying Daoist in the forbidden area of the Phoenix Nest. The reason why he had achieved what he had today was all because he had obtained the immortal bird mysterious art. It could be said that the Phoenix Nest was of great significance to the Iron Blood Daoist. Let's wait a little longer. If the Everlasting City Lord still doesn't take action, we will. Chapter 2033. The Golden Fire Grand Formation was still in operation. The terrifying heat spread in all directions. The vegetation within 1,000 miles had dried up and turned yellow. After this battle, this place would become a desert. This was the result of Divine General Huazun's control. If the Golden Crow Blazing Fire Formation's power was allowed to spread, all life within a radius of 10,000 miles would be annihilated. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk the sky rumbled. The blazing divine fire from the 81 banners burned a huge hole in the sky. Under the burning of the divine fire, the space was silently annihilated. At this moment, the Tao patterns on the periphery of the grotto heaven that was sealed in the center by the 81 flags were constantly collapsing, and the arrays were constantly collapsing. This was definitely not a good thing for the 13 great bandits in the Phoenix Nest forbidden area. What's going on? If Iron Blood Boss doesn't come to save us, we're going to be wiped out. The bearded man was incomparably anxious. Seeing that the Phoenix Nest Forbidden Area's restrictive spell was continuously being destroyed by the raging Inferno Golden Crow Grand Formation, they had already reached the juncture of life and death. Damn, it's already been 12 hours. The 13 bandits have actually persisted for 12 hours in the Golden Fire Grand Formation. This is unbelievable. Outside the immortal venerable city, the City Lord was still watching. At this moment, there was a neat row of silver-armored immortal soldiers standing behind him. They were the city guards formed by 3,000 immortal emperors. As long as the limitless City Lord gave the order, the 3,000 city guards would directly charge into the mountains and defeat the 100,000 fire god warriors with lightning speed. However, the City Lord still didn't give the order to attack. He knew Divine General Hua very well. This old man would never fight a battle that he was not confident of winning. The City Lord had once suffered a loss from Divine General Hua. On the surface, there seemed to be no conflict between the immortal mansion of Central Province and the Ziyun clan, but the Ziyun clan was always thinking about restoring the glory of the Ziyun Supreme. However, only a sovereign had the ability to unify the entire ancestral star. In an era without a sovereign, it was very difficult for a supreme force to conquer the entire ancestral star. Of course, the Ziyun clan had never given up on conquering the entire ancestral star. As the 10 divisions of the Ziyun clan, the 10 great clans of the southern region were the vanguard of the Ziyun clan. Just like this time, the true power of the Ziyun clan had yet to be displayed. That guy is really patient. On a distant mountain peak, Jiyu Fei and the Iron-Blood Taoist, who were watching the movements of the Wuji City Lord, could not help but admire the Wuji City Lord for being too cautious. This fellow is only a great perfection quasi-sage. How could he be so gutless? The Iron-Blood Daoist said disdainfully. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that this was a rare opportunity to attack the Phoenix Nest Forbidden Area while Divine General Huazun was controlling the blazing Golden Crows formation with all his might. Then, he could ruthlessly stab him in the back. Even if he couldn't directly defeat 100,000 soldiers, he could still heavily injure them. This guy is not simple. He's not timid, but cautious. On the surface, this is a good opportunity to defeat the Fire God's warrior weapon, but isn't this a trap set by Divine General Huazun to ambush the Wuji City Lord? What should we do? We can't just watch our brothers die in the hands of Supreme Flame. The Iron-Blood Daoist said agitatedly. Since it's hard for the Wuji City Lord to make a decision, we'll help him. Jiyu Fei looked over at the Wuji City Lord. The 3,000 silver-armored immortal soldiers behind the Wuji City Lord were definitely an elite troop of soldiers, because they were made up of immortal emperor experts. This was the most powerful force in Immortal Venerable City, which was firmly controlled by the City Lord of Everlasting City. This immortal emperor combat soldier would only listen to the command of one person, the City Lord. Swoosh! Jiyu Fei executed the 8 desolation steps and vanished from the mountain peak in an instant. This, the Iron-Blood Daoist couldn't help being startled. Jiyu Fei's speed was unimaginably fast. Even he couldn't catch a glimpse of Jiyu Fei's figure. He hastily chased after him. Very quickly, Jiyu Fei came to the vicinity of the camp where the 100,000 Fire God soldiers were stationed. Without hesitation, he struck a mountain peak in front of him. A huge hand appeared between the heavens and earth, emitting a terrifying energy wave, falling down on the mountain peak. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! A series of loud roars echoed through the air. Then, countless runes emerged from the ground and a peerless amount of killing intent erupted from the ground. Sure enough, there's an ambush. Jiyu Fei seemed to have expected this. He didn't stop his attack. The heaven-covering palm continued to strike at the mountain peak. The powerful force caused the void below the palm to crack and collapse. Attack! A loud shout was heard. A phalanx of 10,000 Fire God soldiers soared into the sky. They raised the divine spears in their hands and stabbed at the huge hand in the sky. Countless formation runes appeared around the 10,000 Fire God warrior soldiers. The power of the formation gathered the power of the 10,000 Fire God warrior soldiers together and blasted towards the giant hand in the sky. Rumble! The huge hand fell and a powerful force swept across everything. The power of the killing formation was directly suppressed by the huge hand. Even the combined attack of the 10,000 Fire God soldiers was blocked by the huge hand. Endless divine fire was scattered under the huge hand. The 10,000 Fire God soldiers suffered a great impact at the same time. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of their mouths and their expressions became weary. What? Zi Yunlong, who saw this scene from afar, was shocked. Who was it that could actually block the combined attack of 10,000 Fire God soldiers? Boom! At this moment, the gigantic hand descended, and the entire mountain peak was directly blasted apart. Dust filled the air, and many of the camps on the mountain peak were destroyed. The thousands of soldiers on the mountain peak also turned into a mist of blood, their bodies and souls destroyed. It wasn't that the combined attack of 10,000 soldiers was weak, but that the opponent's power was much stronger than the combined attack of 10,000 soldiers. Roar! An angry roar was heard. Divine General Huazun was enraged. He drove the chariot and like a bloodthirsty ancient beast, he fiercely rushed towards Jiyu Fei. Go to hell! Divine General Huazun was enraged. Thousands of combat soldiers had been slapped to death by Jiyu Fei with a single palm strike, and this had both shocked and enraged him. He waved his hands, and streams of fire dragons rushed out from between his palms, pouncing towards Jiyu Fei. A total of 9 fire dragons rushed out from Divine General Huazun's hands. Each fire dragon emitted an extremely powerful wave of fire elemental power. Chapter 2034. Supreme Flame charged over and attacked Jiyu Fei directly. 9 fire dragons rushed out of his hands and pounced towards Jiyu Fei. Terrifying divine fire spread from the fire dragons. Before they reached him, the divine fire had already burned in front of Jiyu Fei. Jiyu Fei did not retreat. Eat my fist. He was much more powerful than Divine General Flame. Facing the furious attack from Divine General Flame, he did not bother to dodge it. Instead, he punched towards the 9 fire dragons. Boom! Boundless chaotic chi gushed forth as Jiyu Fei's fist caused the entire space around him to tremble. His martial true force erupted forth with ferocity akin to a volcano eruption, instantly dissipating the 9 fire dragons. What? Divine General Flame's shock was no small matter. He had never thought that his opponent would be so powerful that he could break the great technique that he had cultivated with a single punch. What shocked him even more was that the power of his opponent's punch did not dissipate after the 9 fire dragons were dispersed. Instead, it continued to charge towards him. This, while Divine General Hua was shocked, he suddenly thought of someone. Fire refinement of heaven and earth. Divine General Huazun waved his hands, causing the void around him to vibrate. A fire domain immediately spread out and sealed the void in front of him. Bang! The powerful fist force collided with the fire domain that Divine General Flame had conjured and let out a dull sound. The entire Divine Fire domain became extremely unstable. At this moment, the power of Jiyu Fei's punch was blocked by Divine General Flame. You are Jiyu Fei. A voice was heard from afar. Then, a slightly plump young cultivator in green walked over and looked at Jiyu Fei in shock. That's right. Who are you? Jiyu Fei did not bother to hide. With his current cultivation base, other than those sages who had sealed themselves, no one else was a match for him. Zi Yunlong. Zi Yunlong stared at Jiyu Fei and said indifferently, "Who is Zi Yunxiao to you from the Ziyun clan?" Jiyu Fei was not surprised to see someone from the Ziyun clan here. After all, the 10 tribes were the 10 outer organizations under the Ziyun clan. Zi Yunlong's face immediately darkened when he heard Jiyu Fei mention Zi Yunxiao. He seemed to be in a bad mood when he heard that name. When Jiyu Fei saw Zi Yunlong's expression, he knew that the relationship between Zi Yunlong and Zi Yunxiao wasn't that simple. You are Jiyu Fei. After resolving the power of Jiyu Fei's punch, Divine General Flame stared at Jiyu Fei and asked in a low voice. His expression was extremely solemn. He was facing an extremely powerful opponent. Our encirclement of the 13 bandits seems to have nothing to do with you. Why did you attack us? Divine General Huazun had a fiery temper to begin with. Jiyu Fei had killed thousands of Fire God warrior soldiers that the Fire God Palace had painstakingly cultivated. This made Divine General Huazun's heart bleed. 100,000 Vulcan warriors were the foundation of the Fire God Palace. Throughout the years, the Fire God Palace had barely managed to build such a troop that could fight for the Fire God Palace. Haha, it has nothing to do with me. Jiyu Fei laughed, but he immediately understood. Although he had stayed in the Phoenix's nest for 10 years, it seemed that no one knew about this. Zi Yunlong, Flame Supreme, you deserve to die. At this moment, a loud shout came from afar. Then, a figure appeared beside Jiyu Fei. The Iron Blood Daoist had finally arrived. It's you. After seeing the Iron Blood Daoist, Zi Yunlong and Divine General Flame Supreme were surprised. The Iron Blood Daoist was not in the Phoenix's nest. Boss, please avenge me. The Iron Blood Daoist's eyes turned red when he saw that the Phoenix's nest had been completely destroyed. The place where the Phoenix's nest used to be was burned into ruins by the divine fire. Boss. Zi Yunxiao and Divine General Flame Supreme were shocked to see the Iron Blood Daoist address Jiyu Fei as boss. Could it be that the Iron Blood Daoist had already followed Jiyu Fei? This is going to be troublesome. Zi Yunlong and Divine General Flame Supreme felt a strong pressure. Jiyu Fei's cultivation was clear for all to see. He was a ruthless person who had once defeated Zi Yunxiao. Rumble, at that moment, the ground suddenly shook. The 100,000 flaming gods' warrior soldiers formed a great formation. Countless flames flickered, and mysterious formation runes interweaved in the void, drawing the power of the sun in the sky. The heaven-shocking killing formation was in operation. Under the support of the formation, the aura of each warrior was rising rapidly. The 13 great bandits are my people. Do you now know why I attacked you? Jiyu Fei's voice was incomparably calm and did not reveal any emotions. It was as if he was talking about something unimportant to him. Kill. Zi Yunlong was very direct. As soon as Jiyu Fei finished speaking, he attacked. Boom. A pitch-black roulette appeared in his hand. A dark light shot out from the roulette, piercing towards Jiyu Fei and causing the void to explode. With a wave of his hand, Jiyu Fei dispersed the beam of light. Then, he extended his hand and grabbed at Zi Yunlong. How is this possible? Jiyu Fei's grab seemed simple and casual, but Zi Yunlong felt that it would be difficult to dodge. It was as if no matter which angle he tried to dodge, he would still be caught. Extinction. Zi Yunlong roared. Then, the black roulette in his hand flew up and instantly expanded to the size of a mountain range. It then slammed towards Jiyu Fei. A terrifying amount of energy rippled out from the roulette. The void beneath the roulette could not withstand this kind of power and collapsed. Zi Yunlong used the saint weapon in his hand. He wanted to end this battle quickly and destroy Jiyu Fei. Destroy your head. Jiyu Fei roared and punched out. The chaotic energy from his punch broke through the destructive energy from the roulette and slammed into the roulette. Bang! Crack! Jiyu Fei's punch landed on the roulette. The unparalleled strength of the punch sent the roulette flying thousands of meters away. Cracks appeared on the surface of the black roulette. Zi Yunlong was shocked and hurriedly dodged. You are very strong. You deserve my full strength. Divine General Huazun's voice resounded. Then, Jiyu Fei felt an extremely powerful energy fluctuation erupt from his body. Flames rose from his body, as if the ancient god of fire had descended upon the world. Divine General Huazun was not a saint who had sealed himself, but he had lived for countless years. Needless to say, his strength had far surpassed that of his peers. Chapter 2035. Now that Supreme Flame was enraged, the consequences were dire. Even Zi Yunlong retreated far away, let alone the other fire god combat soldiers. Even though they had formed a formation, they had no choice but to retreat. Roar! Old Divine General Hua roared into the sky as his white hair danced in the wind. Flashes of lightning-like flames emerged around him and lingered outside his body. A domineering and violent aura burst out from Divine General Huazun's body, spreading across the heavens and earth, causing the heavens and earth to lose their color. Ayo, he's angry. Jiyu Fei smiled as he looked at old Divine General Huazun, allowing him to increase his strength without making a move to stop him. Old Divine General Huazun was a good opponent. It was rare for him to meet such a good opponent, so Jiyu Fei of course wanted to have some fun. Boss, I'll go kill that Zi Yunlong. Iron Blood Daoist stared at Zi Yunlong in the distance, his eyes almost spitting fire. Zi Yunlong had destroyed his phoenix nest, the place where he made his fortune. At this moment, fire was still burning in the direction of the phoenix nest. Within the flames, one could vaguely see the silhouette of the golden crow. Blazing golden crow formation. Seeing this, the Iron Blood Daoist's pupils dilated. This was the palace guarding formation of the Fire God Palace. He had only heard of it, but had never experienced its power. Go, I get angry just by looking at this guy. Jiyu Fei stood in the air and said to the Iron Blood Daoist. He did not seem to care about Divine General Hua at all, and he did not even gather his strength. You. Seeing this, Divine General Hua was enraged. In order to gather his strength, his face had turned red, yet the other party did not care at all and looked down on him. Haha, be careful, don't piss yourself off. Jiyu Fei said with a laugh. Roar, you are too much. Divine General Hua's eyes were red, and the veins on his forehead were twitching. He wanted to tear this guy into pieces and keep his spiritual soul in hell for 10,000 years. Bang! At this moment, Old God General Hua's power had also risen to its peak. He stretched out his hand and performed the Great Qin Na hand. The essence fire of the sun surged out from his hand and condensed into a mountain-sized hand of raging fire, pressing down on Ji Yufei's head. You want to play this trick with me? Ji Yufei couldn't help but chuckle when he saw the old general conjuring his primordial spirit and forming a giant hand to cast out this divine art. Then, he calmly raised his right hand and pressed upwards. Boom! The giant flaming hand in the sky suddenly trembled. Then, a palm-shaped hole appeared in the middle of the giant hand. Then, with the palm-shaped hole as the center, the giant flaming hand began to dissipate and collapse. An exclamation followed. It was the hoarse voice of old divine General Hua. You're still lacking a little. Ji Yufei soared into the sky and rushed towards old god General Hua Supreme. There was still no powerful aura being emitted from his body. It was as if he was taking a stroll in the park. How is this possible? Your cultivation has increased again. Old God General Flame Supreme was incomparably shocked. He had already gathered his most powerful energy. Just like what this abominable fella had said, he had almost pooped his pants. However, this fella had still easily resolved his attack. At this moment, the Iron Blood Daoist had already pounced towards Zi Yunlong. An immortal bird flew across the sky and clawed at Zi Yunlong. It's the mystic bird art. Zi Yunlong used his movement technique and retreated instantly. The sharp claws of the immortal bird could only tear apart the afterimage he left behind. The immortal bird disappeared and the Iron Blood Daoist's figure appeared in the sky. The pair of sharp claws that tore through the sky were transformed from the Iron Blood Daoist's pair. Missing his attack, the Iron Blood Daoist roared and turned back into the immortal bird, flying towards Zi Yunlong. His voice was like a bird's chirping, extremely ear-piercing. Purgatory in the palm. Zi Yunlong did not dodge this time. He stretched out his hand and grabbed forward. A heaven-devouring power appeared in his palm and a pitch-black vortex appeared, swallowing the Iron Blood Daoist who was flying towards him. The pitch-black vortex in the palm seemed to be connected to a terrifying purgatory. A towering murderous aura surged from it, giving off a hair-raising feeling. Immortal Firebird, burn! The Iron Blood Daoist shouted. An immortal firebird appeared in the sky. It flapped its wings and circled in the sky before swooping down at Zi Yunlong. The firebird turned into a ball of fire. Like a divine sun falling from the 9 heavens, it smashed towards Zi Yunlong with a powerful force that shook the heavens and earth. Zi Yunlong was shocked. This Iron Blood Daoist seemed to be much stronger than he had imagined. No wonder he could subdue the 13 great bandits by himself. Although Zi Yunlong was shocked by this powerful move, he also showed a hint of excitement on his face. This was an opponent worthy of his full strength. Rumble! Zi Yunlong reached out with his hand. The pitch-black vortex in his palm instantly expanded, enveloping the entire sky and swallowing the fireball falling from the sky. Bang! A muffled sound came from the dark whirlpool. The whirlpool in Zi Yunlong's palm shook violently, and rays of fiery light rushed out. Give me your hand. Zi Yunlong closed his hand and the huge vortex immediately disappeared. However, a few drops of blood seeped out of his palm. Very good. Other than Zi Yunxiao, you are the second person who can make me bleed. Zi Yunlong clenched his right hand and stared at the Iron Blood Daoist. A cruel smile appeared on his face and his eyes shone with excitement. In an instant, the two powerhouses faced off against each other. The Iron Blood Daoist and Zi Yunlong's aura rose rapidly. The shadow of an undying second appeared on the Iron Blood Daoist's body. On the other hand, a strange black vortex appeared on Zi Yunlong's body. He looked like an unparalleled demon from hell. His body actually possessed demonic power. At this time, in another direction, Ji Yufei and the old divine General Huazun were fighting. In the distant sky, a middle-aged man in battle armor was standing in the air, watching the battle ahead. Behind the middle-aged man were 3,000 soldiers in silver armor and holding divine spears. This middle-aged man was the everlasting city lord. It's time. Kill them. The lord of Wuji City waved his hand forward, and the 3,000 silver-armored city guards behind him immediately turned into a silver torrent, rushing towards the fire god warriors in front of them. Chapter 2036. Attack! Their shouts shook the heavens and earth. 3,000 silver armor immortal emperors turned into an unstoppable silver current, rushing towards the 100,000 flaming god warriors. The extremely powerful killing aura shocked everyone. Enemy attack! Attack! In just an instant, the 10 commanders of the 100,000 flaming god warriors regained their senses. They raised their divine spears and commanded the warriors behind them to charge forward. Attack! The 100,000 flaming god warriors roared in unison, shaking the heavens and earth. The war chariots rumbled and the flags fluttered. Countless formation runes flickered among the 100,000 flaming god warriors. A peerless energy ripple spread out from the battle formation of the 100,000 flaming god warriors. The entire heavens and earth trembled. All living beings within 100,000 li radius could feel this energy ripple. It was too powerful. The power of 100,000 flaming god warriors gathered together was like the attack of a supreme existence that was infinitely close to the saint realm. These fellas are indeed prepared. The limitless city lord was incomparably shocked. Supreme Flame, that old man, had already been intercepted by Jiu Fei and was engaged in an endless battle. Zi Yunlong was also entangled by the Iron Blood Taoist. He originally thought that without the control of these two people, the power of the fire god battle formation would be greatly reduced. He did not expect it to still have such terrifying power. Kill. At this moment, the arrow was already narked on the bowstring. He had no choice but to release it. With a roar, he took the lead and charged into the flaming god battle formation. The silver current was like an invincible sharp sword, piercing into the battle formation of the 100,000 flaming god warriors. Everything that stood in its way was mercilessly crushed and destroyed. Clouds of blood mist appeared. Broken divine weapons and splattered flesh fell from the sky like a rain of blood. In just a simple charge, thousands of flaming god warriors had fallen. Change the formation, attack. A loud shout was heard. The flaming god battle formation was activated. Countless silhouettes flashed rapidly. The remaining flaming god warriors surrounded the 3,000 silver armor immortal emperors. Rumble, countless formation patterns were faintly discernible. Streams of extremely pure fire elemental energy were drawn over and added to the fire god battle formation, causing the power of this battle formation to increase by a large margin. What? The master of Wuji City was shocked. He thought that he could destroy thousands of fire god warrior soldiers, which would cause the formation to be damaged and difficult to operate. However, the scene before him was beyond the everlasting city lord's expectation. The fire god battle formation was activated. The void that was surrounded by the battle formation seemed to have turned into a furnace. Endless divine fire burned towards the Wuji city lord and the others from all directions. Defend! The city lord of everlasting city shouted. The 3,000 silver-armored immortal emperor soldiers behind him immediately spread out to protect him and quickly formed a battle formation. After all, the immortal venerable city was the gateway to the middle province. The city guards stationed in the immortal venerable city were much stronger than the city guards in other places. The 3,000 city guards were all immortal emperor soldiers. A force that wasn't weaker than the battle formation formed by the 100,000 fiery god battle soldiers was rapidly condensing. 3,000 immortal emperors were absolutely not weaker than the 100,000 fiery god battle soldiers. One should know that the cultivation base of the 100,000 fiery god battle soldiers varied. Among the soldiers, there were old high supreme immortal emperor soldiers and demigod cultivators who weren't even immortal deities. Among the 100,000 fiery god battle soldiers, there were no more than 30,000 true immortal divinity soldiers and only a few hundred immortal emperors. If it wasn't for the fire god battle formation, the 3,000 silver-armored city guards of the immortal venerable city would have completely defeated the 100,000 fiery god battle soldiers. Hong Long Long, the peerless power condensed by the fire god battle formation clashed with the shocking power of the battle formation formed by the 3,000 immortal emperor city guards. At the point of contact, countless Dao runes were destroyed. A great battle broke out. The two super forces that had formed their respective battle formations were attacking each other. Soldiers kept falling from the sky. Very soon, the 3,000 immortal Emperor soldiers under the everlasting City Lord also suffered casualties. Relatively speaking, the casualties of the fiery god battle soldiers were much greater than the 3,000 immortal Emperor soldiers under the everlasting City Lord. However, in the everlasting City Lord's point of view, it was still a great loss for him to exchange 10,000 fiery god battle soldiers for the life of one of his immortal Emperor soldiers. Kill. Attack. Kill. Battle cries shook the sky. The fiery god battle soldiers and the city guards of the immortal venerable city fought fiercely. Even the mountains below were dyed red by the blood that rained down from the sky. Boom. Suddenly, a muffled sound was heard from the battle formation of the immortal Emperor soldiers of the immortal venerable city. Then, a huge seal flew out from the battle formation, turned into the size of a mountain, and smashed towards the battle formation of the fiery god battle soldiers. Countless Tao marks could be vaguely seen on the seal. An incomparably vast Saint Tao Chi was emitted from the seal. The heavens and earth seemed to be on the verge of collapsing under the pressure of this force. This is, the immortal Emperor commanders among the fiery god battle soldiers paled when they sensed the irresistible Saint Tao energy from the seal. This was a Saint rank magic tool. Boom. Before the commanders among the fire gods combat soldiers could react, the huge seal had already smashed down. The huge seal was like a mountain. With just one blow, nearly 10,000 fire gods combat soldiers were killed on the spot, and countless soldiers were affected. Roar. Old Divine General Huazun's eyes turned red upon seeing this scene. He was so angry that he almost coughed up blood. This was a troop of soldiers that he had spent countless efforts to build up. Now, they had lost 10% of their members. Such an outcome almost drove him crazy. Wuji boy, I'm going to kill you. Old Divine General Huazun pushed Ji Yufei away with all his might. Then, he drove the war chariot towards the Lord of Everlasting City who was besieged by the fiery god battle formation. At this moment, the Lord of Everlasting City who was protected by the silver armor immortal Emperor stretched out his hand. The huge seal shrunk rapidly and flew back to him, falling into his hand. Bam! Just as old Divine General Huazun was about to rush into the fiery god battle formation, a palm had already slapped on his back. He was sent flying from the war chariot with blood spurting out from his mouth. Cries of alarm were heard. Seeing old Divine General Huazun being sent flying, countless soldiers in the fiery god battle formation couldn't help but turn pale with fright. You're courting death for daring to be distracted while fighting me. The owner of the palm said indifferently. This person was none other than Ji Yufei, who was forced back by old Divine General Huazun. Old Divine General Huazun had still underestimated Ji Yufei's speed. Old Divine General Huazun was sent flying by Ji Yufei's palm. This wasn't an ordinary palm. It contained the power of the chaotic Grand Tao that Ji Yufei cultivated. Not only did it hurt old Divine General Huazun's physique, even his primordial spirit was impacted.